Question 1. Scenario. Maria recently purchased a new home and obtained a homeowner's insurance policy in Louisiana. She has a significant collection of antiques, including rare paintings and vintage jewelry. Maria is concerned about the coverage for her valuable possessions under her standard homeowner's insurance policy. What should Maria do to ensure her collection is adequately protected? A. Rely on the standard homeowner's insurance policy as it generally covers all personal property. B. Purchase an additional personal articles floater to specifically cover her antiques and valuable items. C. Increase the dwelling coverage. Coverage A. Limit to include her antiques. D. Add an earthquake insurance endorsement to her policy to cover potential damage to her antiques. Correct answer. B. Purchase an additional personal articles floater to specifically cover her antiques and valuable items. Explanation. In Louisiana, as with other states, a standard homeowner's insurance policy HO3 provides coverage for personal property, but high-value items like antiques and jewelry often exceed the standard coverage limits. A personal articles floater or a personal property floater provides specific coverage for valuable items such as antiques, jewelry, and collectibles. This endorsement offers broader coverage, including protection against accidental damage or loss that may not be fully covered under the standard policy. Increasing the dwelling coverage or adding earthquake insurance would not adequately address the specific needs for personal valuable items, as these options do not extend specific coverage for high-value items. Question 2. Which of the following best describes the purpose and coverage scope of a personal umbrella policy in Louisiana? A. It provides additional coverage beyond the limits of auto and homeowners policies, including liability for claims not covered by those primary policies. B. It only provides coverage for damages related to auto accidents that exceed the limits of the personal auto policy. C. It extends coverage for medical payments to others that are not covered by the primary health insurance policy. D. It offers coverage for personal property losses that occur during travel abroad. Correct answer. A. It provides additional coverage beyond the limits of auto and homeowners policies, including liability for claims not covered by those primary policies. Explanation. A personal umbrella policy, PUP, is designed to provide extra liability coverage beyond the limits of underlying policies such as auto and homeowners insurance. It also extends coverage to claims that might not be covered by the primary policies, including certain types of personal liability not addressed by those policies. It does not specifically cover medical payments or personal property losses during travel abroad. The PUP is particularly useful for protecting against large lawsuits or claims that exceed the liability limits of standard policies. Question 3. Scenario. Mr. Thompson owns a rental property in Louisiana and has a dwelling policy DEPA 3. During a severe storm, a tree falls on the property, causing extensive damage. Mr. Thompson is unsure about the extent of coverage for the damage. What should Mr. Thompson do to determine if the damage is covered under his DEPA 3 policy? A. Check if the damage is covered under coverage A, which includes the dwelling structure. B. Ensure that the damage is categorized under perils insured against in his policy's declarations. C. Review the policy's exclusions section to see if storm-related damage is excluded. D. Contact the insurance company to confirm coverage details for wind and storm damage. Correct answer. B. Ensure that the damage is categorized under perils insured against in his policy's declarations. Explanation. The DEPA 3 policy, also known as the Special Form, provides open peril coverage for the dwelling, meaning it covers all risks of direct physical loss unless specifically excluded. Mr. Thompson should refer to the perils insured against section of his policy to verify whether storm damage, such as that from falling trees, is covered. The policy's exclusions section will list any exceptions, such as damage from certain types of storms or specific conditions not covered. While checking coverage and contacting the insurance company can also provide clarity, ensuring that the damage falls within the perils insured against is critical for determining coverage. Question 4. Which principle in insurance is primarily concerned with ensuring that an insured does not profit from a loss, but instead is restored to the same financial position they were in before the loss occurred? A. Principle of utmost good faith. B. Principle of indemnity. C. Principle of insurable interest. D. Principle of subrogation. Correct answer. B. Principle of indemnity. Explanation. The principle of indemnity is fundamental in insurance and ensures that an insured is compensated for a loss without gaining any financial advantage. This principle dictates that the insured should be restored to the same financial condition they were in prior to the loss, not better or worse. The principle of utmost good faith requires both parties to the contract to act honestly and disclose all material facts. The principle of insurable interest requires the insured to have a financial stake in the property or life insured. The principle of subrogation allows the insurer to pursue a third party responsible for a loss after paying the insured. Indemnity specifically addresses the concept of not profiting from a loss. Question 5. Which endorsement to a personal auto policy (PAP) in Louisiana provides additional coverage for rental cars when the insured's vehicle is out of service due to a covered loss? A. Roadside assistance coverage. B. Rental reimbursement coverage. C. Loss of use coverage. D. Comprehensive coverage. Correct answer. B. Rental reimbursement coverage. Explanation. Rental reimbursement coverage is an endorsement available in a personal auto policy (PAP) that provides coverage for the cost of renting a vehicle while the insured's car is being repaired due to a covered loss. This endorsement ensures that the insured is not left without transportation during the repair period. Roadside assistance coverage typically provides services such as towing and emergency repairs. Loss of use coverage is a term more commonly associated with certain types of property insurance and might be used interchangeably with rental reimbursement in some contexts, but rental reimbursement is the specific endorsement for rental cars. Comprehensive coverage refers to non-collision losses like theft or vandalism, but does not include rental car coverage. Question 6. Scenario: Ms. Evans lives in Louisiana and has a homeowner's insurance policy with coverage E. Personal liability. A visitor to her home slips and falls, sustaining an injury. Ms. Evans is concerned about whether her policy will cover the medical expenses and legal costs associated with this incident. What is the best way for Ms. Evans to ensure she has adequate coverage? A. Review the policy's coverage E to confirm that it includes medical payments and personal liability limits. B. Check if the policy includes coverage for medical expenses under coverage C. Personal property. C. Increase the limit on her coverage dwelling to cover potential liability costs. D. Verify if the policy has a personal umbrella policy endorsement to extend coverage limits. Correct answer: A. Review the policy's coverage E to confirm that it includes medical payments and personal liability limits. Explanation. Coverage E. Personal liability in a homeowner's insurance policy provides coverage for legal liability for bodily injury or property damage to others. This includes legal defense costs and settlements. Additionally, coverage F. Medical payments to others covers medical expenses for injuries to visitors, regardless of fault. It's crucial for Ms. Evans to review coverage E to ensure that it has sufficient limits for both liability and medical payments. Coverage C. Personal property is for personal belongings and does not cover medical expenses or liability. Increasing coverage dwelling does not impact liability or medical payment coverage. A personal umbrella policy could provide additional liability coverage beyond standard limits but is not a direct part of the homeowner's policy. Question 7. Which of the following accurately describes the difference between an HO2 broad form and an HO3 special form homeowners insurance policy in Louisiana? A. A HO2 policy provides open peril coverage for the dwelling and named perils coverage for personal property, while an HO3 policy offers named perils coverage for the dwelling and open peril coverage for personal property. B. A HO2 policy offers open peril coverage for both the dwelling and personal property, whereas a HO3 policy provides named perils coverage for both. C. A HO2 policy provides named perils coverage for both the dwelling and personal property, while a HO3 policy offers open peril coverage for the dwelling and named perils coverage for personal property. D. A HO2 policy covers personal property on an open peril basis and the dwelling on a named peril basis, while a HO3 policy covers both the dwelling and personal property on a named peril basis. Correct answer. C. The HO2 policy provides named perils coverage for both the dwelling and personal property, while a HO3 policy offers open peril coverage for the dwelling and named perils coverage for personal property. Explanation. In Louisiana, a HO2 broad form policy provides named perils coverage for both the dwelling and personal property. This means the policy covers only those perils specifically listed in the policy, and HO3 special form policy, on the other hand, provides open peril coverage for the dwelling, meaning it covers all risks of direct physical loss except those specifically excluded. Personal property under an HO3 policy is covered on a named perils basis. This distinction is crucial as open peril coverage generally offers broader protection compared to named perils coverage. Question 8. When determining the underwriting for a dwelling policy D1, which of the following is a key consideration in deciding whether to issue the policy or set specific terms and conditions? A. The insured's credit score. B. The property's location and the specific perils it faces. C. The insured's previous insurance claims history. D. The insured's employment status. Correct answer. B. The property's location and the specific perils it faces. Explanation. Underwriting for a dwelling policy D1 basic form involves assessing the risk associated with the property's location and the specific perils it faces. Factors such as the property's exposure to risks like flood, earthquake, or other natural disasters are evaluated to determine the suitability of coverage and terms. While an insured's credit score and claims history may impact underwriting in some contexts, the primary concern for a young policy is the property's vulnerability to the specific perils covered under the policy. Employment status is generally not a relevant factor in underwriting decisions for property insurance. Question 9. Scenario. Mr. Johnson's boat, insured under a watercraft insurance policy in Louisiana, sustains damage from a collision with another boat. He is unsure about the coverage for the damages to his boat and the liability for the damages to the other boat. What should Mr. Johnson do to determine his coverage? A. Review the policy's physical damage coverage for his own boat and liability coverage for damages to the other boat. B. Check the policy's medical payments coverage to see if it covers the damages to his boat. C. Verify if his policy includes uninsured boaters coverage to cover damages from the collision. D. Confirm with his insurer whether the damages from the collision are covered under the watercraft insurance's liability limits. Correct answer. A. Review the policy's physical damage coverage for his own boat and liability coverage for damages to the other boat. Explanation. Watercraft insurance policies typically include physical damage coverage to protect against damage to the insured boat itself and liability coverage to cover damages or injuries to others resulting from an accident involving the insured boat. Mr. Johnson should review his policy's physical damage coverage to determine if it covers the repair costs for his boat. Additionally, he should check the liability coverage section to understand if it provides coverage for the damages caused to the other boat involved in the collision. Medical payments coverage generally covers medical expenses for injuries, not property damage. Uninsured boaters coverage is relevant for accidents involving uninsured boaters, not for standard collision claims. Question 10. Which of the following statements accurately describes the coverage for increased cost of compliance under the National Flood Insurance Program, NFIP, in Louisiana? A. It covers the cost to repair or replace damaged property to comply with new building codes and ordinances, regardless of the flood loss. B. It covers the cost to elevate a building that was damaged by flooding to comply with current floodplain management requirements. C. It provides coverage for the replacement of personal property that has been damaged or destroyed by floodwaters. D. It reimburses the insured for the cost of legal fees associated with disputes over flood claims. Correct answer. B. It covers the cost to elevate a building that was damaged by flooding to comply with current floodplain management requirements. Explanation. Under the National Flood Insurance Program, NFIP, increased cost of compliance coverage helps property owners with the additional cost to bring a building into compliance with current building codes and floodplain management regulations after it has been damaged by a flood. This coverage specifically addresses the cost to elevate, floodproof, or otherwise modify the structure to meet code requirements. It does not cover general property repair or replacement costs, nor does it include legal fees for flood claim disputes. Coverage for personal property damaged by floodwaters falls under standard and FIP flood insurance coverage, and ICC is a separate provision aimed at compliance with building regulations. Question 11. In Louisiana, which endorsement or policy option would most likely be used to provide coverage for a high-value collection of rare coins within a homeowner's insurance policy? A. Personal property floater. B. Scheduled personal property endorsement. C. Standard coverage endorsement. D. Valuable articles coverage. Correct answer. B. Scheduled personal property endorsement. Explanation. For high-value items like rare coins, a scheduled personal property endorsement is the most appropriate option. This endorsement allows policyholders to schedule specific high-value items and provide them with additional coverage beyond the limits of standard homeowners insurance. It ensures that these items are covered for risks not included under the standard policy, such as accidental damage or loss. The personal property floater and valuable articles coverage are similar but may not provide as tailored coverage as the scheduled personal property endorsement. Standard coverage endorsement is not a term commonly used for high-value item coverage and does not provide the same level of specificity. Question 12. Scenario: Mrs. Brown is considering adding an earthquake insurance policy to her existing homeowner's insurance in Louisiana. She is concerned about the potential impact of deductibles and the extent of coverage for structural damage. What should Mrs. Brown specifically review in the earthquake insurance policy to make an informed decision? A. The exclusions section to understand what types of damage are not covered. B. The policy's limit on coverage for personal property damage. C. The deductible amount and how it applies to structural damage claims. D. The coverage for liability claims related to earthquake damage. Correct answer: C. The deductible amount and how it applies to structural damage claims. Explanation: when considering an earthquake insurance policy, it is crucial for Mrs. Brown to review the deductible amount and how it applies to structural damage. Earthquake policies typically have higher deductibles compared to standard property insurance, and the deductible is usually a percentage of the building's value or a fixed amount. Understanding this helps in assessing the potential out-of-pocket costs before the insurance coverage kicks in. While exclusions are important to review, the deductible is a significant factor affecting the affordability and effectiveness of the policy. Coverage for personal property and liability related to earthquakes are also important but secondary to understanding the deductible, as it directly impacts the financial impact of a claim. Question 13. Which of the following best describes the purpose and scope of a personal articles floater in a homeowner's insurance policy? A. It provides coverage for personal property only during travel abroad. B. It extends the coverage of personal property to include loss or damage due to broader perils and typically requires item-specific underwriting. C. It replaces standard homeowners insurance coverage for personal property with a higher limit but does not cover specific items like jewelry or art. D. It provides additional liability coverage for personal items that are lost or damaged by natural disasters. Correct answer: B. It extends the coverage of personal property to include loss or damage due to broader perils and typically requires item-specific underwriting. Explanation: a personal articles floater (PAF) is an endorsement or separate policy that extends coverage for high-value items such as jewelry, fine art, or collectibles beyond what is covered by a standard homeowner's insurance policy. It typically provides coverage against a broader range of perils, including accidental loss or damage, and may require specific underwriting for each item insured. This coverage is tailored to protect individual items that might not be sufficiently covered under the basic homeowner's insurance policy limits. It does not solely apply to travel abroad, nor does it replace homeowners insurance, but enhances it for high-value items. The PAF does not specifically address liability for personal items lost or damaged by natural disasters. Question 14. Which of the following is a key feature of the dwelling policy DEPA 2, brought form in Louisiana? A. It provides open peril coverage for both the dwelling and personal property. B. It covers the dwelling on a named peril basis and personal property on an open peril basis. C. It offers named peril coverage for the dwelling and personal property, including additional coverage for specific perils. D. It includes coverage for damage from earthquakes as a standard peril. Correct answer: C. It offers named peril coverage for the dwelling and personal property, including additional coverage for specific perils. Explanation: the dwelling policy DEPA 2, broad form, provides named perils coverage for both the dwelling and personal property. This means it covers losses resulting from specific perils listed in the policy, such as fire, windstorm, and vandalism, among others. Additionally, the DEPA 2 form typically includes broader coverage compared to the DEPA 1 basic form, with some additional perils included. It does not provide open peril coverage for either the dwelling or personal property, nor does it include earthquake coverages. A standard peril earthquake coverage must be purchased separately. Question 15. Scenario: Mr. Lee has recently acquired a new boat and wants to ensure it is adequately covered under his watercraft insurance policy in Louisiana. He is particularly concerned about liability coverage for injuries to passengers and damage to other boats. What should Mr. Lee focus on when reviewing his policy? A. The policy's physical damage coverage limits for his own boat. B. The policy's liability coverage limits for bodily injury and property damage to others. C. The policy's uninsured boaters coverage limits. D. The policy's personal property coverage limits for items on the boat. Correct answer. B. The policy's liability coverage limits for bodily injury and property damage to others. Explanation. When reviewing a watercraft insurance policy, Mr. Lee should focus on the liability coverage limits, which cover bodily injury and property damage to others resulting from an accident involving his boat. This coverage is crucial for protecting against potential legal and financial liabilities arising from injuries to passengers and damage to other boats. Physical damage coverage is important for repairing or replacing Mr. Lee's own boat, but does not cover liabilities to others. Uninsured boaters coverage is relevant if involved in an accident with an uninsured boater, and personal property coverage pertains to items on the boat, but not to liability concerns. Question 16. Which of the following best describes the purpose of the subrogation principle in insurance? A. It allows an insurer to pursue a third party responsible for a loss after compensating the insured to recover the amount paid. B. It requires the insured to disclose all potential risks associated with their policy. C. It provides additional coverage limits for losses exceeding the primary policy's limit. D. It involves the adjustment and settlement of claims by the insurer. Correct answer. A. It allows an insurer to pursue a third party responsible for a loss after compensating the insured to recover the amount paid. Explanation. The principle of subrogation is a crucial concept in insurance that allows an insurer to step into the shoes of the insured and pursue a third party responsible for a loss after the insurer has paid the claim. This process helps insurers recover the amount paid to the insured and thus prevents the insured from receiving double compensation. It does not require the insured to disclose risks, provide additional coverage limits, or involve the direct adjustment and settlement of claims. Subrogation specifically deals with the recovery of costs from third parties liable for the insured's loss. Question 17. In Louisiana, which coverage part of a homeowner's insurance policy addresses loss of income due to a property becoming uninhabitable after a covered peril? A. Coverage dwelling coverage. B. Coverage D. Loss of use coverage. C. Coverage C. Personal property coverage. D. Coverage F. Medical payments to others. Correct answer. B. Coverage D. Loss of use coverage. Explanation. Coverage D, also known as loss of use coverage, in a homeowner's insurance policy provides compensation for loss of income or additional living expenses if the insured property becomes uninhabitable due to a covered peril. This coverage helps pay for temporary housing or other necessary living expenses incurred while the home is being repaired or rebuilt. Coverage A pertains to the dwelling structure. Coverage C covers personal property, and Coverage F covers medical payments to others, but none of these directly address loss of income or expenses related to the property becoming uninhabitable. Question 18. Scenario MS. Carter's Louisiana rental property is insured under a dwelling policy DEPA 3 special form. After a severe hailstorm, she discovers extensive damage to the roof and exterior of the property. What should MS Carter consider when filing a claim for this damage? A. Whether the hailstorm damage is covered under the named perils section of the policy. B. The policy's exclusions to determine if hailstorm damage is excluded. C. Whether the damage falls under the fair rental value coverage if the property is rented. D. The policy's additional living expense coverage if the property cannot be rented out. Correct answer. B. The policy's exclusions to determine if hailstorm damage is excluded. Explanation. MS. Carter should review the policy's exclusions to determine if hailstorm damage is covered under the dwelling policy DP3 special form. The DEPA 3 policy provides open peril coverage for the dwelling, meaning it covers all risks of direct physical loss except those specifically excluded in the policy. Understanding the exclusions is crucial to ensure that hailstorm damage is not among the listed exclusions. Coverage for fair rental value applies to lost rental income if the property becomes uninhabitable. An additional living expense coverage is not typically part of the DEPA 3 policy but could be relevant in other insurance contexts. Question 19. Which endorsement is typically used to provide coverage for a home-based business in a standard homeowner's insurance policy, and what does it generally cover? A. Business pursuit endorsement, which covers liability for business activities outside the home. B. Home business endorsement, which extends coverage to include business property and liability. C. Personal liability endorsement, which increases liability limits for personal activities. D. Increased coverage endorsement, which raises the coverage limits for personal property. Correct answer. B. Home business endorsement, which extends coverage to include business property and liability. Explanation. The home business endorsement is designed to extend coverage under a standard homeowners insurance policy to include business property and liability associated with running a business from home. This endorsement typically covers business-related equipment and provides liability coverage for incidents related to the business operations. The business pursuits endorsement covers liability for business activities conducted away from the home and is not applicable to home-based businesses. The personal liability endorsement increases liability limits for personal activities, but does not address business-related concerns. Increased coverage endorsement generally raises limits for personal property but does not specifically target business-related risks. Question 20. What is the primary function of a personal umbrella policy in relation to other personal lines policies, and what type of coverage does it typically provide? A. It provides primary coverage for all types of personal property, including vehicles and homes. B. It offers additional liability coverage above the limits of underlying policies such as homeowners and auto insurance. C. It covers high-value personal property and collectibles not covered by other policies. D. It provides coverage for health-related expenses not included in a health insurance policy. Correct answer. B. It offers additional liability coverage above the limits of underlying policies such as homeowners and auto insurance. Explanation. A personal umbrella policy is designed to provide additional liability coverage above and beyond the limits of underlying personal lines policies such as homeowners and auto insurance. It offers extended protection in the event of significant liability claims or lawsuits that exceed the coverage limits of these primary policies. This policy does not provide primary coverage for personal property or health-related expenses, but serves as a supplementary layer of liability coverage to enhance the protection provided by existing policies. Question 21. Scenario. Mr. Thompson's home in Louisiana, insured under a Hoffery Special Form policy, suffers damage from a windstorm that is not explicitly listed as an exclusion in his policy. He is also worried about potential mold damage that developed after the initial incident. How should Mr. Thompson address his concerns regarding coverage for both the windstorm damage and the subsequent mold damage? File a claim for windstorm damage and review the policy's mold coverage provisions to ensure mold damage is covered. B. Assume that mold damage is covered as part of the windstorm claim without separate consideration. C. Only file a claim for windstorm damage and seek separate coverage for mold damage through a specialized policy. D. Consult the policy's exclusions to confirm if mold damage is included and then file a claim if it is not excluded. Correct answer. A. File a claim for windstorm damage and review the policy's mold coverage provisions to ensure mold damage is covered. Explanation. Mr. Thompson should file a claim for windstorm damage as his HO3 policy covers open perils except those specifically excluded. Additionally, he should review the policy's provisions regarding mold damage, as many standard homeowners insurance policies have specific limits or exclusions for mold coverage. Mold damage that develops as a secondary issue after an initial covered peril may or may not be included depending on the policy's specifics. It is important to address both types of damage separately to ensure that all potential coverage aspects are considered. Assuming mold damage is covered without review or seeking separate coverage might result in unexpected gaps in protection. Question 22. Which of the following accurately describes the coverage provided by a personal articles floater PAF for valuable items such as antiques or high-end electronics? A. It provides replacement cost coverage for personal property, but only up to the policy's total limit. B. It offers coverage for loss or damage from a broader range of perils than standard homeowners insurance, typically including accidental loss. C. It covers personal property exclusively while it is being transported between locations. D. It replaces homeowners insurance coverage for valuable items but does not require specific item valuations or appraisals. Correct answer. B. It offers coverage for loss or damage from a broader range of perils than standard homeowners insurance, typically including accidental loss. Explanation. A personal articles floater PAF extends coverage for high-value items like antiques or high-end electronics beyond what is provided by standard homeowners insurance. This type of policy generally includes coverage for a wider range of perils, including accidental loss, which is often excluded from standard policies. PAF provides coverage based on specific item valuations or appraisals, ensuring that high-value items are adequately protected. It does not solely cover items during transport, nor does it replace homeowners insurance, but enhances it for high-value items. Question 23. Which of the following statements is true regarding the liability coverage limits provided by a personal umbrella policy in Louisiana? A. Automatically increases the liability coverage limits of the homeowners and auto insurance policies without additional premiums. B. It provides primary liability coverage for all types of claims, regardless of existing insurance policies. C. It offers additional liability coverage that supplements the limits of existing homeowners and auto insurance policies, typically with a higher limit. D. It covers liability for business-related claims not covered by standard personal lines policies. Correct answer. C. It offers additional liability coverage that supplements the limits of existing homeowners and auto insurance policies, typically with a higher limit. Explanation. A personal umbrella policy provides an extra layer of liability coverage above and beyond the limits of existing homeowners and auto insurance policies. It does not increase the liability coverage of these primary policies automatically, but supplements their limits with higher coverage. This type of policy is designed to provide additional protection in the event of significant liability claims or lawsuits that exceed the coverage provided by the primary policies. It does not serve as primary coverage for all types of claims or cover business-related liability, which typically requires separate business insurance. Question 24. Scenario MS. Rodriguez's Louisiana rental property is insured under a dwelling policy DEPA 2, broad form. After a burst pipe caused water damage to the interior, she discovers the damage was extensive and requires significant repair. How should MS Rodriguez proceed to ensure her claim for the water damage is properly addressed? A. Confirm that water damage from a burst pipe is covered under the named perils listed in the DEPA 2 policy. B. Assume that all water damage is covered and file a claim without verifying the specifics of the damage. C. Check if the damage falls under the additional living expense coverage if the property becomes uninhabitable. D. Seek coverage under the homeowner's insurance policy for broader water damage protection. Correct answer. A. Confirm that water damage from a burst pipe is covered under the named perils listed in the DEPA 2 policy. Explanation. MS. Rodriguez should first confirm that the specific type of water damage, such as that from a burst pipe, is covered under the named perils of her dwelling policy DEPA 2, broad form. The DEPA 2 policy provides coverage for a range of named perils, but it is crucial to verify whether the burst pipe and resulting water damage are explicitly included. The DEPA 2 policy generally does not cover all water damage, such as that from flooding, unless specifically included. Additional living expense coverage is for when the property is uninhabitable, and seeking coverage under a homeowner's insurance policy is not relevant for a rental property with a E2 policy. Question 25. What is the primary distinction between a dwelling policy DEPA 1, basic form, and a dwelling policy DEPA 3, special form, in terms of coverage for the dwelling? A. DEPA 1 provides open peril coverage for the dwelling, while DEPA 3 covers the dwelling on a named peril basis. B. DEPA 1 covers the dwelling for named perils only, whereas DEPA 3 provides open peril coverage for the dwelling. C. DEPA 1 includes coverage for additional living expenses, while DEPA 3 excludes it. D. DEPA 1 offers broader coverage for the dwelling than DEPA 3, with fewer exclusions. Correct answer. B. DEPA 1 covers the dwelling for named perils only, whereas DEPA 3 provides open peril coverage for the dwelling. Explanation. The primary distinction between a dwelling policy DEPA 1, basic form, and a dwelling policy DEPA 3, special form, lies in the type of coverage provided. The DEPA 1 policy covers the dwelling on a named peril basis, meaning it only covers losses resulting from specific perils listed in the policy, such as fire or vandalism. In contrast, the DEPA 3 policy provides open peril coverage for the dwelling, which covers all risks of direct physical loss except those specifically excluded. This makes DEPA 3 generally more comprehensive in terms of coverage for the dwelling compared to D1. Question 26. Which of the following best describes the purpose of additional living expenses coverage in a homeowner's insurance policy, and how is it triggered? A. It provides financial assistance for temporary housing and other expenses if the insured property is damaged and uninhabitable due to a covered peril. B. It covers the cost of repairs to the insured property, including any upgrades required by local codes. C. It compensates the insured for lost rental income if the property is rented out and becomes uninhabitable due to a covered peril. D. It provides coverage for personal property that is lost or damaged during the repair process. Correct answer A. It provides financial assistance for temporary housing and other expenses if the insured property is damaged and uninhabitable due to a covered peril. Explanation. Additional living expenses, ill coverage in a homeowner's insurance policy provides financial assistance for temporary housing, meals, and other necessary expenses incurred if the insured property becomes uninhabitable due to a covered peril such as a fire or severe storm. Its coverage helps policyholders maintain their standard of living while their home is being repaired or rebuilt. It does not cover repair costs, upgrades required by local codes, lost rental income, or personal property lost during the repair process. ALE is specifically designed to address the increased living costs resulting from property damage. Question 27. Scenario. Mr. Johnson has a homeowner's insurance policy in Louisiana that includes coverage C for personal property. After burglary, he discovers that several high-value items, such as a collection of rare coins, are missing. What steps should Mr. Johnson take to address the claim and ensure adequate compensation? A. File a claim under coverage C for the stolen items and check if the policy includes a personal articles floater for high-value items. B. Assume that coverage C will cover the high-value items adequately and do not provide additional documentation or valuations. C. Seek compensation under a separate high-value insurance policy for rare coins and file a claim for general personal property under coverage C. D. Only file a police report and wait for the claim to be processed without further action. Correct answer A. File a claim under coverage C for the stolen items and check if the policy includes a personal articles floater for high-value items. Explanation. Mr. Johnson should file a claim under coverage C for the stolen personal property, including the rare coins. Coverage C provides protection for personal property against named perils, but high-value items may have limited coverage or sublimits under standard homeowners insurance policy. It is important to check if the policy includes a personal articles floater PAF, which would provide additional coverage for high-value items, such as rare coins. The PAF offers broader protection and higher limits for valuable items that might not be fully covered under standard coverage C. Seeking separate high-value insurance or relying only on a police report may not ensure adequate compensation for specific high-value items. Question 20. Which of the following best describes the coverage limits and conditions for uninsured motorist coverage under a personal auto policy PAP in Louisiana? A. It covers damages to the insured's vehicle caused by an uninsured driver with limits up to the policy's liability coverage amount. B. It provides coverage for bodily injury or property damage sustained by the insured when involved in an accident with an uninsured or underinsured motorist, subject to the policy limits. C. It covers damages to the insured's vehicle caused by their own negligence with no deductible. D. It provides coverage for the insured's vehicle if stolen with limits equal to the vehicle's replacement cost. Correct answer. B. It provides coverage for bodily injury or property damage sustained by the insured when involved in an accident with an uninsured or underinsured motorist, subject to the policy limits. Explanation. Uninsured motorist coverage under a personal auto policy PAP in Louisiana is designed to provide protection for bodily injury and property damage that the insured incurs if they are involved in an accident with an uninsured or underinsured motorist. This coverage helps compensate for damages when the at-fault driver does not have sufficient insurance or no insurance at all. The limits of coverage are subject to the policy's specific limits and are not tied to the liability coverage amount. It does not cover the insured's vehicle damage caused by their own negligence, nor does it cover vehicle theft or replacement cost. Question 29. What is the key difference between a HO2 broad form and a HO3 special form homeowners insurance policy in terms of coverage for personal property? A. HO2 provides open peril coverage for personal property, whereas HO3 offers named peril coverage. B. HO2 covers personal property on a named peril basis, while HO3 provides open peril coverage for personal property. C. Both HO2 and HO3 offer the same level of coverage for personal property with no difference. D. HO2 includes higher liability limits for personal property than HO3. Correct answer. B. HO2 covers personal property on a named peril basis, while HO3 provides open peril coverage for personal property. Explanation. The HO2 broad form homeowners insurance policy provides named peril coverage for personal property, meaning it only covers losses from specific perils listed in the policy. In contrast, the HO3 special form policy provides open peril coverage for personal property, covering all risks of direct physical loss except those specifically excluded. This means HO3 generally offers broader and more comprehensive coverage for personal property compared to HO2. Neither form inherently affects liability limits for personal property, but HO3 typically offers more extensive protection. Question 30. Scenario: MS. Taylor has a Louisiana homeowners insurance policy with coverage E, personal liability, and discovers that a visitor was injured on her property. What should MS. Taylor do to ensure she receives adequate coverage for the liability claim? A. Verify that the visitor's injury falls within the policy's covered perils and file a claim under coverage E. B. Assume that coverage E will cover all liability claims without further documentation or investigation. C. File a claim under coverage C for personal property damage related to the visitor's injury. D. Seek coverage under her auto insurance policy if the injury occurred while the visitor was in a vehicle. Correct answer: A. Verify that the visitor's injury falls within the policy's covered perils and file a claim under coverage E. Explanation: MS. Taylor should verify that the visitor's injury is covered under her homeowner's insurance policy's coverage E. Personal liability. Coverage E provides protection against liability claims for bodily injury or property damage to others occurring on the insured premises. It is important to ensure that the incident falls within the scope of covered perils and to file a claim under this coverage. Coverage C pertains to personal property, not liability, and auto insurance would not apply to injuries occurring on the property. Adequate documentation and investigation are necessary to support the claim and ensure coverage. Question 31. What is the primary purpose of the duties after an accident or loss section in a personal auto policy PAP, and what are some key responsibilities outlined in this section? A. To outline the coverage limits for bodily injury and property damage claims. B. To detail the steps the insured must take after an accident or loss to ensure proper handling and documentation of the claim. C. To provide instructions for filing a complaint if the claim is denied by the insurer. D. To specify the types of perils covered under the policy and their respective exclusions. Correct answer: B. To detail the steps the insured must take after an accident or loss to ensure proper handling and documentation of the claim. Explanation: The duties after an accident or loss section in a personal auto policy PAP outlines the steps the insured must follow after an accident or loss to facilitate proper handling and documentation of the claim. This typically includes notifying the insurer promptly, providing necessary information and documentation related to the accident or loss, cooperating with the insurer's investigation, and reporting any legal actions. This section is crucial for ensuring that the claim process is handled smoothly and that the insurer has all the information needed to process the claim effectively. It does not cover the specific details of coverage limits, complaint procedures, or perils covered. Question 32. Which of the following is a common exclusion found in most standard homeowners insurance policies regarding flood damage? A. Coverage for damage caused by sudden and accidental water discharge from a plumbing system. B. Coverage for damage resulting from a flood as defined by the National Flood Insurance Program (NFIP). C. Coverage for damage from water overflow from a sump pump. D. Coverage for damage due to a storm surge from a hurricane. Correct answer: B. Coverage for damage resulting from a flood as defined by the National Flood Insurance Program (NFIP). Explanation: Most standard homeowners insurance policies exclude coverage for damage resulting from flooding as defined by the National Flood Insurance Program (NFIP). Flood damage is generally not covered under standard homeowners insurance policies and requires separate flood insurance through NFIP or private flood insurance. Coverage for sudden and accidental water discharge from a plumbing system, water overflow from a sump pump, and storm surge from a hurricane may be covered under different conditions or policies, but not flood damage specifically. Question 33. Scenario: Mr. Davis, a Louisiana homeowner, has a dwelling policy Deeper One basic form and discovers that his property has been damaged by a fire caused by a lightning strike. What should Mr. Davis consider when filing a claim for this type of damage? A. Verify that fire damage caused by lightning is covered under the named perils listed in the Deeper One policy. B. Assume that all fire damage is automatically covered by the Deeper One policy without checking the specific cause. C. Seek coverage under a separate fire insurance policy as Deeper One does not cover fire damage. D. Check the policy's exclusions for lightning damage to ensure it is not excluded. Correct answer A. Verify that fire damage caused by lightning is covered under the named perils listed in the D1 policy. Explanation: Mr. Davis should verify that fire damage caused by lightning is covered under the named perils listed in the dwelling policy D1 basic form. The D1 policy provides coverage for specific named perils, including fire, but it is important to confirm that lightning as a cause of fire is included. The policy does cover fire damage, but confirming the specifics of the coverage ensures there are no misunderstandings. It is unnecessary to seek separate fire insurance or check exclusions for lightning damage specifically as long as it is covered under the named perils. Question 34. What is the role of the subrogation clause in a personal auto policy (PAP) and how does it affect the claims process? A. It allows the insured to collect compensation from their own policy after a claim, regardless of fault. B. It provides the insurer with the right to pursue recovery from a third party responsible for the loss after paying the claim. C. It ensures that the insurer will automatically cover all damages incurred by the insured without regard to third-party liability. D. It obligates the insured to pay back any claim payments received if they later recover damages from a third party. Correct answer B. It provides the insurer with the right to pursue recovery from a third party responsible for the loss after paying the claim. Explanation: the subrogation clause in a personal auto policy (PAP) gives the insurer the right to pursue recovery from a third party who is responsible for the loss after the insurer has paid the claim to the insured. This process allows the insurer to seek reimbursement for the amount paid out on the claim from the party at fault, thus helping to manage and mitigate their own losses. It does not allow the insured to collect compensation regardless of fault, nor does it automatically cover all damages or obligate the insured to repay claim payments if they recover damages from a third party. Question 35. How does the fair rental value coverage in a dwelling policy (DP) differ from additional living expenses ECA homeowners insurance policy? A. Fair rental value covers lost rental income if the rental property is uninhabitable, while additional living expenses cover temporary housing costs for the homeowner. B. Fair rental value provides coverage for temporary housing costs, while additional living expenses cover lost rental income. C. Fair rental value covers the cost of repairs to the dwelling, whereas additional living expenses cover personal property loss. D. Fair rental value is available only in homeowners insurance policies, while additional living expenses are included in dwelling policies. Correct answer A. Fair rental value covers lost rental income if the rental property is uninhabitable, while additional living expenses cover temporary housing costs for the homeowner. Explanation: fair rental value coverage in a dwelling policy (DP) compensates the property owner for lost rental income if the rental property becomes uninhabitable due to a covered peril. In contrast, additional living expenses or coverage in a homeowner's insurance policy helps the homeowner cover the cost of temporary housing and other necessary expenses if their home is uninhabitable due to a covered peril. Both coverages address different financial impacts of property damage, lost rental income versus increased living costs, but are designed for distinct situations and policy types. Question 36. Scenario: MS. Lee, a policyholder in Louisiana with a personal umbrella policy, is involved in a serious car accident where she is found liable for significant damages exceeding her auto insurance liability limits. What will the personal umbrella policy typically provide in this situation? A. It will cover the excess damages above her auto insurance liability limits, provided that the underlying auto insurance policy was valid and in effect. B. It will cover all damages regardless of the auto insurance policy limits or validity. C. It will only cover damages up to the limit of the auto insurance policy and will not provide any additional coverage. D. It will cover legal fees and court costs but not the damages from the accident. Correct answer A. It will cover the excess damages above her auto insurance liability limits, provided that the underlying auto insurance policy was valid and in effect. Explanation: a personal umbrella policy is designed to provide additional liability coverage above the limits of underlying policies, such as auto insurance, in the event that MS. Lee is found liable for damages exceeding her auto insurance liability limits. The personal umbrella policy will cover the excess damages as long as the underlying auto insurance policy was valid and in effect at the time of the accident. The umbrella policy does not provide coverage regardless of the underlying policy limits or solely for legal fees and court costs. It specifically extends the liability protection above existing coverage limits. Question 37. Which of the following statements accurately reflects the coverage provided by an inland marine personal property floater compared to a standard homeowner's insurance policy? A. The inland marine personal property floater provides broader coverage for personal property while traveling or temporarily outside the insured's home compared to the standard homeowner's insurance policy. B. The inland marine personal property floater covers only items stored in a safe deposit box and excludes coverage for items at home. C. The standard homeowner's insurance policy covers personal property on a named peril basis, while the inland marine personal property floater covers only specific perils. D. The inland marine personal property floater offers higher coverage limits for personal property at home but does not extend coverage outside the home. Correct answer A. The inland marine personal property floater provides broader coverage for personal property while traveling or temporarily outside the insured's home compared to the standard homeowner's insurance policy. Explanation: an inland marine personal property floater is designed to provide coverage for personal property that is frequently moved or temporarily located outside the insured's home, such as high-value items like jewelry, artwork, or collectibles. This coverage generally extends beyond the limits of a standard homeowner's insurance policy, which may have restrictions or sublimits for personal property when it is outside the home. The inland marine floater typically offers broader coverage for a wider range of risks and perils compared to the named peril coverage of a standard homeowner's policy. Question 38. Under Dwelling Policy Deeper 2, broad form, which of the following is covered under coverage D? Fair rental value. A. The cost of temporary housing for the policyholder if the dwelling is uninhabitable due to a covered peril. B. Lost rental income if the insured dwelling is uninhabitable due to a covered peril such as fire or windstorm. C. The cost of repairs and upgrades required by local building codes after a covered loss. D. The increased cost of living due to a temporary relocation following an evacuation order. Correct answer B. Lost rental income if the insured dwelling is uninhabitable due to a covered peril such as fire or windstorm. Explanation: under coverage D. Fair rental value (ICA dwelling policy Deeper 2, broad form) coverage is provided for lost rental income if the insured property which is rented out becomes uninhabitable due to a covered peril like fire or windstorm. This coverage compensates the property owner for the income they would have earned from renting the property but lost due to the damage. It does not cover the policyholder's temporary housing costs, repair costs or upgrades required by building codes, or increased living costs due to evacuation. Question 39. Scenario: Mr. Roberts, a Louisiana resident, has a H3 homeowner's insurance policy. After a severe storm, he discovers that his home has sustained damage from hail and wind. How should Mr. Roberts proceed to ensure that his claim is handled correctly? A. Verify that the damage from hail and wind is covered under the open peril basis of the H3 policy and then file a claim with proper documentation. B. Assume that all storm-related damages are covered under the H3 policy without further investigation or documentation. C. File a claim under a separate wind and hail insurance policy, as the H3 policy may not cover these perils. D. Only file a claim for wind damage and handle hail damage separately, as they are treated differently under the policy. Correct answer A. Verify that the damage from hail and wind is covered under the open peril basis of the H3 policy and then file a claim with proper documentation. Explanation: Mr. Roberts should verify that the damage from hail and wind is covered under the H3 homeowner's insurance policy, which provides open peril coverage for the dwelling. This means it covers all risks of direct physical loss except those specifically excluded in the policy. Hail and wind damage are generally covered under an H3 policy. After verifying coverage, Mr. Roberts should file a claim with proper documentation of the damage to ensure a smooth claims process. It is not necessary to seek separate policies for these perils or handle them differently if the policy covers both. Question 40. In the context of personal liability insurance, which of the following best describes the term self-insured retention and how it impacts coverage? A. It refers to the amount of money the insured must pay out of pocket before the insurance coverage begins to pay. B. It is the total amount covered by the insurance policy, including the insured's own funds. C. It is the portion of the claim that the insurer will not cover, requiring the insured to cover that part. D. It represents the insurance company's liability limit for any one claim. Correct answer A refers to the amount of money the insured must pay out of pocket before the insurance coverage begins to pay. Explanation: self-insured retention, sir, is the amount of money that the insured must pay out of pocket before the insurance coverage starts to contribute to a claim. It functions similarly to a deductible but is typically used in more specialized policies, such as excess liability or umbrella policies. The insured is responsible for paying this amount before the insurer will cover the remaining costs of the claim. It does not refer to the total coverage amount, the portion of the claim not covered by the insurer, or the insurer's liability limit. Question 41. Which of the following is a key characteristic of an HO5 comprehensive form homeowners insurance policy compared to an HO3 special form policy? A. The HO5 provides open peril coverage for both the dwelling and personal property, while the HO3 provides open peril coverage only for the dwelling and named perils for personal property. B. The HO5 provides named peril coverage for both the dwelling and personal property, while the HO3 provides open peril coverage for the dwelling and named perils for personal property. C. The HO5 provides limited liability coverage compared to the HO3 policy. D. The HO5 excludes coverage for personal property while the HO3 includes it. Correct answer A. The HO5 provides open peril coverage for both the dwelling and personal property, while the HO3 provides open peril coverage only for the dwelling and named perils for personal property. Explanation: the HO5 comprehensive form homeowners insurance policy is the most extensive form of homeowners coverage, providing open peril coverage for both the dwelling and personal property. This means it covers all risks of direct physical loss except those specifically excluded in the policy. In contrast, the HO3 special form policy provides open peril coverage for the dwelling but only named peril coverage for personal property, meaning it covers personal property only for perils specifically listed in the policy. This makes the HO5 generally more comprehensive in terms of personal property coverage. Question 42. Scenario: MS. Adams, a Louisiana homeowner with a standard homeowners insurance policy, has experienced damage from a recent earthquake. What should MS. Adams know about the coverage provided for earthquake damage under her standard policy, and what steps should she take? A standard homeowners insurance policies typically exclude earthquake damage, so MS. Adams should review her policy for specific exclusions and consider purchasing a separate earthquake insurance policy. B. Earthquake damage is automatically covered under all standard homeowners insurance policies, so MS. Adams should file a claim without additional action. C. Standard homeowners insurance policies provide coverage for earthquake damage up to a certain limit, so MS. Adams should file a claim for the damage within those limits. D. She should seek coverage under her auto insurance policy for the earthquake damage, as homeowners insurance does not cover such perils. Correct answer: 8. Standard homeowners insurance policies typically exclude earthquake damage, so MS. Adams should review her policy for specific exclusions and consider purchasing a separate earthquake insurance policy. Explanation: standard homeowners insurance policies generally exclude coverage for earthquake damage. MS. Adams should review her policy to confirm that earthquake damage is excluded and then consider purchasing a separate earthquake insurance policy if she wants coverage for such risks. Earthquake insurance is specifically designed to cover damage from seismic events and is not included in the standard homeowners coverage. It is not advisable to rely on auto insurance for earthquake damage, as it does not cover damage to the home from such perils. Question 43. In a standard dwelling policy D1 basic form, what type of coverage is typically provided for vandalism and malicious mischief, and what are the common exclusions? A. Coverage is provided for any act of vandalism or malicious mischief with no exclusions. B. Coverage is provided only if the vandalism occurs within 30 days of a covered peril with exclusions for vacant properties. C. Coverage is provided for vandalism and malicious mischief but excludes losses if the property has been vacant for more than 30 days. D. Coverage is provided for vandalism and malicious mischief caused by the insured, with exclusions for damage caused by neighbors. Correct answer: C. Coverage is provided for vandalism and malicious mischief but excludes losses if the property has been vacant for more than 30 days. Explanation: under standard dwelling policy D1 basic form, coverage for vandalism and malicious mischief is typically included, but there are important exclusions. One common exclusion is that coverage for vandalism and malicious mischief is not provided if the property has been vacant for more than 30 consecutive days. Its exclusion helps mitigate the insurer's risk associated with properties that are unoccupied, as vacant properties are more susceptible to vandalism and other types of damage. Question 44. What is the primary difference between coverage dwelling and coverage B? Other structures like a standard homeowner's insurance policy. A. Coverage A provides protection for personal property inside the home, while Coverage B covers the dwelling structure itself. B. Coverage A covers the dwelling and any attached structures, while Coverage B covers structures not attached to the dwelling like fences and sheds. C. Coverage A is for liability protection, while Coverage B is for medical payments to others. D. Coverage A is limited to fire and smoke damage, while Coverage B covers all perils. Correct answer. B. Coverage A covers the dwelling and any attached structures, while Coverage B covers structures not attached to the dwelling, like fences and sheds. Explanation: in a standard homeowner's insurance policy, coverage dwelling provides protection for the primary structure of the home and any attached structures, such as an attached garage or porch. On the other hand, Coverage B other structures covers structures on the property that are not attached to the dwelling, such as fences, detached garages, sheds, and other outbuildings. This distinction ensures that both the main living area and auxiliary structures have appropriate coverage. Question 45. Scenario: Mr. Carter, a Louisiana resident, is reviewing his personal umbrella policy and discovers an exclusion for intentional acts. How does this exclusion impact his coverage if he is involved in a situation where he intentionally causes harm or damage? A. The exclusion means that the personal umbrella policy will not cover any damages or legal costs arising from intentional acts, as they are not insurable. B. The exclusion means that the policy will cover damages from intentional acts up to the policy limit, but will not cover legal costs. C. The exclusion does not apply to claims involving intentional acts if they are covered by an underlying policy. D. The exclusion is only applicable if Mr. Carter is found guilty in a court of law for the intentional act. Correct answer A. The exclusion means that the personal umbrella policy will not cover any damages or legal costs arising from intentional acts, as they are not insurable. Explanation: the intentional acts exclusion in a personal umbrella policy means that the policy will not provide coverage for damages or legal costs arising from intentional acts. Insurance policies generally exclude coverage for intentional acts because these are considered non-insurable risks. The exclusion is designed to prevent coverage for actions where the insured intentionally causes harm or damage, thus protecting the insurer from fraudulent or willful conduct. This exclusion applies regardless of the outcome of any legal proceedings or the presence of underlying policy coverage. Question 46. In the context of a personal auto policy, PAP, what does uninsured motorist coverage typically cover, and what are common limitations of this coverage? A. It covers damages to the insured's vehicle caused by a hit-and-run driver with no limitations on coverage amounts. B. It provides coverage for bodily injury and property damage caused by an uninsured or underinsured motorist, but may have limitations based on state law and policy terms. C. It covers the insured's vehicle for damages caused by a driver with insufficient liability limits without regard to the driver's insurance status. D. It provides coverage for damages to the insured's vehicle in the event of theft, regardless of the involvement of another driver. Correct answer: B. It provides coverage for bodily injury and property damage caused by an uninsured or underinsured motorist, but may have limitations based on state law and policy terms. Explanation: uninsured motorist coverage (ICA personal auto policy PAP) is designed to provide coverage for bodily injury and property damage if the insured is involved in an accident with a motorist who does not have insurance or whose insurance limits are insufficient to cover the damages. However, this coverage often has limitations based on state law and the terms of the policy, including coverage limits and conditions. It does not cover theft or damages caused by hit-and-run drivers specifically unless they are deemed uninsured, and it does not provide comprehensive coverage for all types of vehicle damages. Question 47. Which of the following best describes the difference between a named peril and an open peril policy in homeowners insurance? A. A named peril policy covers only perils specifically listed in the policy, while an open peril policy covers all risks except those explicitly excluded. B. A named peril policy covers all risks except those listed, while an open peril policy only covers risks that are explicitly named. C. A named peril policy provides broader coverage than an open peril policy, which is generally limited to fire and theft. D. An open peril policy covers all types of damage regardless of the cause, while a named peril policy covers only damages related to personal property. Correct answer A. A named peril policy covers only perils specifically listed in the policy, while an open peril policy covers all risks except those explicitly excluded. Explanation: in homeowners insurance, a named peril policy provides coverage only for the specific risks or perils that are explicitly listed in the policy. In contrast, an open peril policy covers all risks of direct physical loss or damage except those that are specifically excluded in the policy. This means that open peril policies generally offer broader coverage compared to named peril policies, which are limited to the perils listed. This distinction affects the extent of coverage and the protection provided under the policy. Question 14. Scenario: Ms. Johnson, a Louisiana homeowner, recently experienced a severe storm that caused significant damage to her roof and personal belongings. Her homeowner's insurance policy includes coverage C, personal property, but excludes certain types of high-value items. How should Ms. Johnson address the coverage of her high-value items, and what are her options? A. Ms. Johnson should review her policy's personal property exclusions and consider purchasing a separate personal property floater to ensure coverage for high-value items. B. She should assume that high-value items are automatically covered under her standard homeowner's insurance policy without any additional action. C. She should file a claim for the damage to high-value items under the homeowner's insurance policy even though these items are excluded. D. Ms. Johnson should seek coverage through her auto insurance policy for the damage to high-value items as homeowners insurance does not cover them. Correct answer A. Ms. Johnson should review her policy's personal property exclusions and consider purchasing a separate personal property floater to ensure coverage for high-value items. Explanation: homeowners insurance policies often have exclusions or sublimits for high-value items such as jewelry, artwork, and collectibles under coverage C, personal property. To ensure these high-value items are adequately covered, Ms. Johnson should review her policy's exclusions and consider purchasing a separate personal property floater which provides broader coverage and higher limits for valuable items. This step is necessary as high-value items may not be fully covered under the standard homeowner's insurance policy. It is not advisable to rely on auto insurance for coverage of home-related high-value items, as it does not typically cover such perils. Question 49. In a standard personal umbrella policy, how does the self-insured retention affect the handling of a claim, and what is typically required from the insured before the umbrella coverage applies? A. The self-insured retention is an amount the insured must pay out of pocket before the umbrella coverage begins, and it typically requires that the insured first exhaust the limits of underlying policies. B. The self-insured retention is the maximum amount the umbrella policy will cover per claim, with no requirement for the insured to use underlying policies. C. The self-insured retention is a flat fee charged by the insurer for each claim, with no effect on the coverage provided. D. The self-insured retention is the total coverage amount provided by the umbrella policy, with no additional costs to the insured. Correct answer A. The self-insured retention is an amount the insured must pay out of pocket before the umbrella coverage begins, and it typically requires that the insured first exhaust the limits of underlying policies. Explanation: the self-insured retention in a personal umbrella policy is the amount that the insured must pay out of pocket before the umbrella policy will provide coverage. This retention amount must typically be satisfied after the underlying policies, such as auto or homeowners insurance, have been exhausted. The umbrella policy provides additional liability coverage above and beyond the limits of these underlying policies, but only after the SIR is met and the limits of the underlying policies are used up. Question 50. What distinguishes a ME3 special form dwelling policy from a V1 basic form dwelling policy in terms of coverage for perils? A. The deeper 3 provides open peril coverage for the dwelling and named perils for personal property, while the deeper 1 provides named peril coverage for both the dwelling and personal property. B. The deeper 3 provides named peril coverage for the dwelling and open peril coverage for personal property, while the deeper 1 provides open peril coverage for both. C. The deeper 3 provides broad form coverage for the dwelling, while the deeper 1 offers coverage only for fire and smoke damage. D. The deeper 3 covers all types of damage regardless of the cause, while the deeper 1 covers only specific types of damage such as vandalism. Correct answer A. The deeper 3 provides open peril coverage for the dwelling and named perils for personal property, while the deeper 1 provides named peril coverage for both the dwelling and personal property. Explanation: the V3 special form dwelling policy offers broader coverage compared to the V1 basic form policy. The deeper 3 provides open peril coverage for the dwelling, meaning it covers all risks of direct physical loss or damage except those specifically excluded in the policy. For personal property, it provides named peril coverage, which means it covers only those perils explicitly listed in the policy. Conversely, the deep 1 provides named peril coverage for both the dwelling and personal property, limiting coverage to only the perils specifically listed in the policy. Question 51. Scenario: Mr. Williams has a H3 homeowner's insurance policy and is facing a liability claim for a dog bite incident that occurred on his property. What is typically covered under the liability portion of the H3 policy, and what should Mr. Williams consider when dealing with the claim? A. The liability portion of the H3 policy generally covers damages and legal costs arising from bodily injury or property damage caused by the insured or their pets, but Mr. Williams should verify any breed-specific exclusions or limitations. B. The liability portion of the H3 policy covers only property damage caused by the insured with no coverage for bodily injury or pet-related incidents. C. The liability portion covers all types of legal claims regardless of the cause, and Mr. Williams does not need to worry about specific exclusions or limitations. D. The liability coverage under an H3 policy is limited to incidents occurring outside the insured's property with no coverage for on-premises incidents. Correct answer A. The liability portion of the H3 policy generally covers damages and legal costs arising from bodily injury or property damage caused by the insured or their pets, but Mr. Williams should verify any breed-specific exclusions or limitations. Explanation: the liability coverage under a H3 homeowner's insurance policy typically covers damages and legal costs arising from bodily injury or property damage for which the insured is legally responsible, including incidents involving their pets. However, Mr. Williams should review the policy for any specific exclusions or limitations related to certain dog breeds, as some policies may have breed-specific exclusions or restrictions. It is essential to understand the terms of the coverage to ensure that the claim is handled appropriately. Question 52. In Louisiana, how does the no-fault provision in personal auto policies affect the handling of claims for medical expenses resulting from an auto accident? A. The no-fault provision allows insured drivers to recover medical expenses from their own insurance regardless of who caused the accident, with limitations on the amount covered. B. The no-fault provision requires the insured to recover medical expenses from the at-fault driver's insurance, with no coverage provided by the insured's own policy. C. The no-fault provision applies only to property damage, not to medical expenses, and requires the insured to seek reimbursement through a separate medical insurance policy. D. The no-fault provision in Louisiana's personal auto policies provides unlimited coverage for medical expenses from any party involved in the accident. Correct answer A. The no-fault provision allows insured drivers to recover medical expenses from their own insurance regardless of who caused the accident, with limitations on the amount covered. Explanation: in Louisiana, the no-fault provision in personal auto policies is designed to allow insured drivers to recover medical expenses from their own insurance company regardless of who is at fault in the accident. This provision is intended to provide quicker access to medical payments and reduce the need for litigation. However, there are limitations on the amount covered, and the insured may need to meet specific requirements or deductibles before the coverage applies. It does not provide unlimited coverage or cover property damage. Question 53. What distinguishes a HOT2 broad form homeowners insurance policy from a HOT5 comprehensive form policy in terms of coverage scope and exclusions in Louisiana? The HOT2 provides named peril coverage for both the dwelling and personal property, while the HOT5 provides open peril coverage for both the dwelling and personal property with fewer exclusions. B. The HOT2 provides open peril coverage for personal property and named peril coverage for the dwelling, while the HOT5 provides coverage only for structural damage. C. The HOT2 includes a higher coverage limit for personal property but excludes coverage for personal liability, whereas the HOT5 includes both higher limits and broader coverage. D. The HOT2 covers personal property under open peril and the dwelling under named perils, while the HOT5 covers only specific risks like fire and theft. Correct answer A. The HOT2 provides named peril coverage for both the dwelling and personal property, while the HOT5 provides open peril coverage for both the dwelling and personal property with fewer exclusions. Explanation: in Louisiana, the Hot 2 broad form homeowners insurance policy covers both the dwelling and personal property against named perils, meaning only those perils specifically listed in the policy are covered. In contrast, the HO5 comprehensive form policy offers open peril coverage for both the dwelling and personal property, covering all risks of direct physical loss except those explicitly excluded. This makes the HO5 generally more comprehensive than the HO2, with fewer exclusions and broader coverage. Question 54. Scenario: Mrs. Thompson, a homeowner in Louisiana, is reviewing her dwelling policy Deeper 2, broad form, after fire caused damage to her rental property. She notices that loss of use coverage is not included. What options does Mrs. Thompson have for addressing her lost rental income due to this damage? A. Mrs. Thompson should consider purchasing a separate business income or fair rental value endorsement to cover the loss of rental income, as the Deeper 2 policy does not include loss of use coverage. B. She can rely on her homeowner's insurance policy to cover the loss of rental income, as it typically includes coverage for rental properties. C. She should seek compensation through her auto insurance policy, as dwelling policies do not cover rental income loss. D. The Deeper 2 policy automatically provides coverage for rental income loss, so no additional action is needed. Correct answer: A. Mrs. Thompson should consider purchasing a separate business income or fair rental value endorsement to cover the loss of rental income, as the Deeper 2 policy does not include loss of use coverage. Explanation: the D2 broad form dwelling policy does not include coverage for loss of use or fair rental value, which covers the loss of rental income due to a covered peril. To address the loss of rental income from the damaged property, Mrs. Thompson should consider purchasing a separate endorsement such as a business income or fair rental value endorsement. This endorsement is designed to cover lost rental income and additional expenses incurred during the period of repair or rebuilding. It is not covered under standard dwelling policies and is not provided by auto insurance. Question 55. In Louisiana, how does the increased cost of compliance, like coverage under a flood insurance policy, impact the payment for repairs or rebuilding of a structure damaged by a flood? A. CC coverage provides additional funds to meet building code requirements for repairs or rebuilding up to a specified limit if the damage is due to a flood. B. CC coverage compensates for damages that exceed the policy's limit but does not cover any additional costs required to meet building codes. C. CC coverage reimburses the insured for temporary housing costs incurred during repairs or rebuilding after a flood. D. CC coverage offers a separate policy limit for structural damage caused by a flood with no additional benefits for compliance with building codes. Correct answer: A. CC coverage provides additional funds to meet building code requirements for repairs or rebuilding up to a specified limit if the damage is due to a flood. Explanation: the increased cost of compliance, like coverage under the National Flood Insurance Program (NFIP), is designed to help policyholders pay for the additional costs required to bring a damaged structure up to current building codes when repairing or rebuilding after a flood. This coverage provides additional funds up to a specified limit to cover the expenses related to meeting new building code requirements that may have changed since the original construction. It does not cover general structural damages or temporary housing costs, nor does it provide a separate limit for structural damage alone. Question 56. What is the primary purpose of an additional living expense endorsement in a homeowner's insurance policy, and what are typical limitations of this coverage in Louisiana? A. ALE. Coverage provides financial assistance for expenses incurred while the insured's home is uninhabitable due to a covered loss, typically with a cap on the total amount and a time limit for coverage. BALE. Coverage provides full replacement cost for personal property damaged or lost due to a covered peril with no specific limitations on the amount or duration. C. ALE. Coverage reimburses for medical expenses incurred due to a covered peril with a fixed limit based on the policy's terms. D. ALE. Coverage compensates for legal costs associated with defending against claims of property damage without a cap or time limit. Correct answer: ALE. Coverage provides financial assistance for expenses incurred while the insured's home is uninhabitable due to a covered loss, typically with a cap on the total amount and a time limit for coverage. Explanation: additional living expense coverage in a homeowner's insurance policy is designed to help policyholders with the costs of living away from home when their residence becomes uninhabitable due to a covered peril. This coverage includes expenses such as temporary housing, meals, and other necessary living costs. Typically, ALE Coverage has a cap on the total amount that can be claimed and a time limit for how long the expenses can be covered. It does not cover the replacement cost of personal property or legal costs. Question 57. Scenario. Mr. Davis, a Louisiana resident, is reviewing his inland marine insurance policy that includes coverage for a valuable personal property floater. He has recently acquired a high-value piece of art and wants to ensure it is covered. What should Mr. Davis do to make sure his new art is adequately insured? A. Mr. Davis should update his valuable personal property floater to include the new piece of art by providing its details and appraised value to his insurer. B. He should rely on his standard homeowner's insurance policy to cover the new piece of art, as inland marine insurance is not necessary for valuable items. C. Mr. Davis should purchase a separate standalone insurance policy for the art, as the inland marine insurance policy does not cover high-value items. D. He should contact his auto insurance provider to add coverage for the new piece of art, as inland marine insurance is not designed for such items. Correct answer A. Mr. Davis should update his valuable personal property floater to include the new piece of art by providing its details and appraised value to his insurer. Explanation. A valuable personal property floater under inland marine insurance provides specialized coverage for high-value items like artwork, jewelry, and collectibles. To ensure his new piece of art is adequately insured, Mr. Davis should update his floater policy by informing his insurer about the new acquisition, providing its details, and submitting an appraisal if required. This ensures that the art is covered for risks such as loss, theft, or damage, as inland marine insurance offers broader and more tailored protection than standard homeowners insurance. Question 58. How does the utmost good faith principle apply to the insurance application process in Louisiana, and what are the potential consequences of failing to adhere to this principle? A. The utmost good faith principle requires applicants to disclose all material information relevant to the insurance application. Failure to do so can result in the denial of a claim or the voiding of the policy if material misrepresentations are discovered. B. Utmost good faith allows applicants to omit minor details on the insurance application as long as the omitted information does not affect the underwriting decision. C. The principle does not apply to the insurance application process, but rather to the claims handling process where the insurer must act in good faith. D. Utmost good faith requires that insurers must provide coverage regardless of the applicant's disclosure, ensuring that no exclusions or conditions apply. Correct answer A. The utmost good faith principle requires applicants to disclose all material information relevant to the insurance application. Failure to do so can result in the denial of a claim or the voiding of the policy if material misrepresentations are discovered. Explanation. The principle of utmost good faith, Ubirimi fide, in insurance requires that both parties, the insurer and the insured, disclose all material facts relevant to the insurance contract. For applicants, this means providing accurate and complete information when applying for coverage in Louisiana. Failure to disclose material information can lead to the insurer denying claims or voiding the policy if it is found that significant misrepresentations were made. This principle ensures that both parties have a clear understanding of the risk being insured. Question 59. In Louisiana, what is the primary difference in coverage between a D1 basic form and a D2 broad form dwelling policy in relation to property damage caused by vandalism? A. The D1 policy excludes vandalism unless it is specifically endorsed, while the D2 policy includes vandalism as a covered peril. B. Both the D1 and D2 policies include vandalism as a covered peril without exclusions. C. The D1 policy automatically covers vandalism, while the D2 policy does not cover vandalism under any circumstances. D. The D1 policy covers vandalism only if it occurs during a civil disturbance, while the D2 policy provides broader coverage including vandalism unrelated to civil disturbances. Correct answer A. The D1 policy excludes vandalism unless it is specifically endorsed, while the D2 policy includes vandalism as a covered peril. Explanation. The Leon basic form dwelling policy generally excludes coverage for vandalism unless a specific endorsement is added to the policy. In contrast, the D2 broad form dwelling policy includes vandalism as a covered peril. This distinction means that the D2 provides broader coverage for risks including vandalism without requiring additional endorsements. Understanding these coverage differences is crucial for property owners to ensure adequate protection for potential risks. Question 60, Scenario MS. Martinez, a Louisiana resident, has a homeowner's insurance policy with a $500,000 limit for dwelling coverage and $50,000 for personal property. After covered peril severely damages her home, the estimated repair cost is $600,000 and her personal property loss is estimated at $70,000. What steps should MS Martinez take to ensure she receives adequate compensation under her policy, and what are the typical limits on policy payments? MS Martinez should file separate claims for dwelling and personal property losses, understanding that she will only receive up to her policy limits and must cover any excess costs out of pocket. B. She should only claim the amount for personal property losses, since the dwelling coverage will automatically cover the entire repair cost without a limit. C. MS Martinez should request an increase in her policy limit for personal property and dwelling to cover the excess costs not included in her current coverage limits. D. She should assume that the policy will automatically provide full coverage for all losses regardless of the specified limits. Correct answer A. MS Martinez should file separate claims for dwelling and personal property losses, understanding that she will only receive up to her policy limits and must cover any excess costs out of pocket. Explanation: in this scenario, MS Martinez should file separate claims for the damage to her dwelling and her personal property. The homeowner's insurance policy will cover up to the policy limits for each type of loss. $500,000 for the dwelling and $50,000 for personal property. Since the estimated repair cost exceeds her dwelling coverage limit and her personal property loss also exceeds her coverage limit, she will need to cover the excess costs out of pocket. It is important for policyholders to be aware of their coverage limits and any potential gaps in their protection. Question 61. How does the supplementary payments provision in a personal auto policy (PAP) typically enhance the coverage for liability claims in Louisiana, and what are common examples of expenses covered under this provision? A. The supplementary payments provision enhances coverage by providing additional funds beyond the policy limits for legal defense and other expenses, including bail bonds, court costs, and loss of earnings due to attending court. B. The supplementary payments provision limits additional coverage to only the policy's deductible amount for liability claims, with no additional benefits for legal expenses or court costs. C. The provision includes coverage for damages that exceed the policy limits, but excludes expenses for legal defense or loss of earnings. D. The supplementary payments provision provides additional coverage only for punitive damages awarded in liability claims, excluding other expenses such as bail bonds. Correct answer A. The supplementary payments provision enhances coverage by providing additional funds beyond the policy limits for legal defense and other expenses, including bail bonds, court costs, and loss of earnings due to attending court. Explanation: in a Louisiana personal auto policy (PAP), the supplementary payments provision provides additional coverage beyond the policy limits for certain expenses related to liability claims. This includes costs such as legal defense fees, bail bonds, court costs, and loss of earnings if the insured is required to attend court. This provision is designed to enhance the insured's protection by covering these additional expenses, which are not typically included in the policy's liability limits. Question 62. What is the primary distinction between the named perils and open perils coverage forms in a homeowner's insurance policy, and how does this impact the policyholder's claim in Louisiana? A. Named perils coverage only includes perils specifically listed in the policy, while open perils coverage includes all perils except those specifically excluded. This impacts claim handling by determining the burden of proof required to establish coverage. B. Named perils coverage is broader and includes all risks of loss, while open perils coverage only includes risks explicitly listed in the policy. C. Open perils coverage excludes specific risks like fire and theft, while named perils coverage includes these risks with no exclusions. D. Named perils coverage provides coverage only for personal property, while open perils coverage applies only to the dwelling structure. Correct answer A. Named perils coverage only includes perils specifically listed in the policy, while open perils coverage includes all perils except those specifically excluded. This impacts claim handling by determining the burden of proof required to establish coverage. Explanation: the primary distinction between named perils and open perils coverage forms in a homeowner's insurance policy lies in the scope of coverage. Named perils coverage only includes those perils specifically listed in the policy, meaning that the insured must prove that the loss was caused by one of these named perils to receive coverage. Open perils coverage, on the other hand, includes all perils except those specifically excluded, shifting the burden of proof to the insurer to show that a particular peril is not covered. This distinction affects how claims are handled and the level of proof required by the policyholder. Question 63. Scenario: Mr. Jackson, a homeowner in Louisiana, has a HO3 policy and is considering adding an endorsement to cover valuable personal property such as a rare coin collection. What type of endorsement should Mr. Jackson consider, and what are the benefits of adding this endorsement to his policy? A. Mr. Jackson should consider adding a scheduled personal property endorsement to specifically list and insure his rare coin collection. This endorsement provides broader coverage for the listed items, including protection against risks not covered by standard homeowners policies. B. He should add a personal liability endorsement, which will cover the rare coin collection under general liability terms. C. Mr. Jackson should purchase a separate auto insurance policy to cover the coin collection, as homeowners policies do not typically cover valuable personal items. D. A dwelling coverage endorsement would be appropriate, but it only increases coverage for structural damage rather than for personal property. Correct answer: A. Mr. Jackson should consider adding a scheduled personal property endorsement to specifically list and insure his rare coin collection. This endorsement provides broader coverage for the listed items, including protection against risks not covered by standard homeowners policies. Explanation: To adequately cover high-value items, such as a rare coin collection, Mr. Jackson should add a scheduled personal property endorsement to his HO3 homeowners insurance policy. This endorsement allows him to specifically list and insure valuable items separately from the general personal property coverage. It provides broader protection, including coverage for risks that may not be included in the standard homeowner's policy, such as accidental loss or damage. This ensures that his valuable personal property is fully protected. Question 64. How does the subrogation principle operate in personal auto insurance claims in Louisiana? And what are the implications for the insured if their insurer seeks recovery from the at-fault party's insurance? A. The principle of subrogation allows the insurer to seek recovery of the claim amount from the at-fault party's insurance after compensating the insured. This may lead to the insured's premium being adjusted or reduced if the insurer recovers the amount paid. B. Subrogation allows the insurer to deny the claim if they cannot recover from the at-fault party's insurance with no impact on the insured's premium or coverage. C. The insurer's subrogation rights mean that the insured must reimburse the insurer out of pocket for any claim payments if the at-fault party is identified. D. Under subrogation, the insurer automatically pays the full claim amount and does not seek any recovery from the at-fault party's insurance with no effect on the insured's future premiums. Correct answer: A. The principle of subrogation allows the insurer to seek recovery of the claim amount from the at-fault party's insurance after compensating the insured. This may lead to the insured's premium being adjusted or reduced if the insurer recovers the amount paid. Explanation: Subrogation is a principle in personal auto insurance that allows the insurer to step into the shoes of the insured to recover the amount paid out on a claim from the at-fault party's insurance. After the insurer compensates the insured for their losses, they may pursue reimbursement from the responsible party's insurer. If successful, this can sometimes result in adjustments to the insured's premium or reductions in future rates, reflecting the insurer's successful recovery efforts. The insured is generally not required to reimburse the insurer directly, but may see adjustments in their insurance costs. Question 65. In Louisiana, what is the key difference between the D3 special form dwelling policy and the D2 broad form dwelling policy regarding coverage for personal property? The DPA 3 policy provides open peril coverage for both the dwelling and personal property, while the DPA 2 policy offers named peril coverage for personal property, requiring the insured to prove that the loss falls within the named perils. B. The DPA 2 policy provides open peril coverage for both the dwelling and personal property, while the DPA 3 policy only covers personal property against specific risks named in the policy. C. Both the DPA 2 and DPA 3 policies provide identical coverage for personal property with no difference in the scope of coverage. D. The DPA 3 policy covers personal property only if the damage is due to vandalism, while the DPA 2 policy covers personal property against all perils, including fire and theft. Correct answer: A. The DPA 3 policy provides open peril coverage for both the dwelling and personal property, while the DPA 2 policy offers named peril coverage for personal property, requiring the insured to prove that the loss falls within the named perils. Explanation: that D3 Special Form Dwelling Policy provides open peril coverage for both the dwelling and personal property. This means that the policy covers all risks of direct physical loss except those specifically excluded. In contrast, the D2 Broad Form Dwelling Policy offers named peril coverage for personal property, meaning that only the perils specifically listed in the policy are covered. Therefore, with the E2 policy, the insured must prove that the loss is caused by one of the named perils to receive coverage for personal property. Question 66. Scenario: MS. Read a Louisiana resident has recently purchased a personal umbrella policy with a $1 million limit. After a serious car accident involving multiple parties, she is sued for $1.5 million. Her underlying auto liability policy covers up to $500,000. What coverage can MS Reed expect from her personal umbrella policy, and what should she do next? A. MS Reed's personal umbrella policy will provide up to an additional $500,000 in coverage beyond her auto liability policy, covering the remaining balance of the lawsuit. She should ensure all documentation of the claim is submitted to her umbrella insurer. B. The personal umbrella policy will cover the entire $1 million excess amount, leaving her responsible for the remaining $500,000 of the lawsuit balance. She should seek legal advice to handle the excess amount. C. The personal umbrella policy will cover only the first $500,000 of the lawsuit and not the remaining amount. MS Reed should negotiate with the plaintiffs to settle the balance. D. The personal umbrella policy will not provide any coverage because the lawsuit amount exceeds the policy limit. MS Reed should use personal assets to cover the excess. Correct answer A. MS Reed's personal umbrella policy will provide up to an additional $500,000 in coverage beyond her auto liability policy, covering the remaining balance of the lawsuit. She should ensure all documentation of the claim is submitted to her umbrella insurer. Explanation: a personal umbrella policy provides additional coverage beyond the limits of underlying policies, such as auto liability. In this scenario, with a $1 million umbrella policy and a $500,000 auto liability policy, MS Reed can expect her umbrella policy to cover the additional $500,000 required to meet the total $1.5 million lawsuit amount. It is essential for MS Reed to submit all relevant claim documentation to her umbrella insurer to facilitate the coverage and ensure all legal and financial obligations are met. The umbrella policy will not cover the full $1 million if the underlying policy's limit is insufficient, leaving the remaining balance uncovered by the umbrella policy itself. Question 67. In Louisiana, what is the primary function of a personal articles floater in inland marine insurance, and how does it differ from standard homeowners insurance coverage? A. A personal articles floater provides specialized coverage for high-value personal property on an open peril basis, which means it covers all risks of loss except those specifically excluded, unlike standard homeowners insurance, which typically covers personal property on a named perils basis. B. A personal articles floater offers coverage only for damage due to fire or theft and does not provide protection against other risks covered by homeowners insurance. C. The personal articles floater provides coverage only for personal property while it is in transit, differing from homeowners insurance, which covers property only while it is in the insured's home. D. A personal articles floater is a type of homeowners insurance policy that covers personal property at a higher limit but does not include coverage for items such as jewelry or fine art. Correct answer A. A personal articles floater provides specialized coverage for high-value personal property on an open peril basis, which means it covers all risks of loss except those specifically excluded, unlike standard homeowners insurance, which typically covers personal property on a named perils basis. Explanation: a personal articles floater PAF under inland marine insurance offers broader and more specialized coverage for high-value items such as jewelry, fine art, or collectibles. It is typically written on an open peril basis, covering all risks of loss except those specifically excluded, providing more comprehensive protection than the standard named perils coverage in a homeowner's insurance policy. Homeowners insurance generally covers personal property on a named perils basis, which means it only covers risks explicitly listed in the policy. Question 60. What are the key factors that insurers consider when determining the premium for a personal umbrella policy in Louisiana? A. Insurers assess the insured's underlying liability limits, overall risk profile, and potential exposure to large claims when setting the premium for a personal umbrella policy. B. Premiums are based solely on the insured's credit score and the geographical location of the property, with no consideration of underlying liability coverage. C. The primary factor is the insured's age and driving record with no regard to underlying coverage limits or risk exposure. D. Insurers base premiums primarily on the value of personal property covered under the policy with minimal consideration of liability risk or underlying limits. Correct answer A. Insurers assess the insured's underlying liability limits, overall risk profile, and potential exposure to large claims when setting the premium for a personal umbrella policy. Explanation. When determining the premium for a personal umbrella policy, insurers evaluate several key factors, including the insured's underlying liability coverage limits, such as those on auto or homeowners policies, the overall risk profile of the insured, including assets and lifestyle, and potential exposure to large claims or lawsuits. This comprehensive assessment helps insurers set appropriate premiums based on the level of risk and potential for significant claims. Question 69. Scenario MS. Brown, a Louisiana homeowner, has a HO5 policy and discovers that her home has suffered damage from a burst pipe. After filing a claim, she learns that the damage is not covered. What are some possible reasons why the damage might not be covered under her HO5 policy, and what actions should MS Brown take to understand her coverage better? The HO5 policy might exclude damage from certain perils, such as water damage from a burst pipe if it is due to neglect or if there was a lack of maintenance. MS Brown should review her policy exclusions and contact her insurer for clarification. B. The HO5 policy excludes all types of water damage, so MS Brown should expect no coverage for such claims. She should consider changing her policy to cover these perils in the future. C. The HO5 policy automatically covers all types of damage, so any damage from a burst pipe should be covered regardless of the circumstances. MS Brown should file a new claim for the damage. D. The policy does not cover burst pipe damage specifically, but it may cover similar risks under a separate endorsement. MS Brown should check for additional endorsements that might provide coverage. Correct answer A. The HO5 policy might exclude damage from certain perils, such as water damage from a burst pipe if it is due to neglect or if there was a lack of maintenance. MS Brown should review her policy exclusions and contact her insurer for clarification. Explanation. A HO5 policy provides open peril coverage for the dwelling and personal property, meaning it covers risks of loss except those explicitly excluded. However, specific exclusions related to water damage from a burst pipe could include scenarios where damage resulted from neglect or lack of proper maintenance. MS Brown should review her policy exclusions and conditions to understand why the damage might not be covered. Additionally, contacting her insurer for a detailed explanation can provide clarity on her coverage and help identify any gaps or require maintenance actions. Question 70. In Louisiana, what is the primary purpose of the increased cost of compliance, like coverage under a flood insurance policy, and how does it differ from standard building coverage? A. The ICC coverage is designed to pay for the additional costs required to bring a property up to current floodplain management standards following a flood loss, which is separate from the standard building coverage that only reimburses for repair or replacement of damaged property. B. ICC coverage provides funds to upgrade the property's overall safety features, including security systems and alarm systems, which is covered under the standard building coverage. C. Standard building coverage under a flood insurance policy includes ICC costs, meaning that any costs associated with compliance improvements are automatically covered as part of the standard policy limits. D. ICC coverage applies exclusively to personal property loss in flood situations, while standard building coverage handles structural damage without considering compliance costs. Correct answer A. The ICC coverage is designed to pay for the additional costs required to bring a property up to current floodplain management standards following a flood loss, which is separate from the standard building coverage that only reimburses for repair or replacement of damaged property. Explanation. Increased cost of compliance, like coverage under a flood insurance policy, provides financial assistance specifically for the costs of upgrading a property to meet current floodplain management standards after a flood loss. This coverage is separate from the standard building coverage, which only reimburses for the repair or replacement of damaged structures. ICC coverage helps property owners comply with new regulations that may require razing, relocating, or demolishing their property to reduce future flood risk. Question 71. How does a scheduled personal property endorsement differ from a personal property floater in inland marine insurance in terms of coverage scope and application? A scheduled personal property endorsement is used to specifically list and insure high-value items on a homeowner's insurance policy with broader coverage than standard homeowners coverage, while a personal property floater provides similar coverage but is a standalone policy rather than an endorsement. B. A personal property floater covers all types of personal property on an open peril basis, including both high-value and standard items, while a scheduled personal property endorsement is used only for items specified in the endorsement and does not cover high-value items. C. A scheduled personal property endorsement provides coverage only for personal property in transit, whereas a personal property floater covers items only while in the home. D. The personal property floater offers less comprehensive coverage than the scheduled personal property endorsement, covering only specific risks like theft but not providing open peril protection. Correct answer A. A scheduled personal property endorsement is used to specifically list and insure high-value items on a homeowner's insurance policy with broader coverage than standard homeowners coverage, while a personal property floater provides similar coverage but is a standalone policy rather than an endorsement. Explanation. A scheduled personal property endorsement allows homeowners to specifically list and insure high-value items such as jewelry, artwork, or collectibles on their existing homeowner's insurance policy. This endorsement provides broader coverage and often includes open peril protection for these items. A personal property floater, on the other hand, is a standalone inland marine insurance policy that offers similar comprehensive coverage for high-value personal items but is not tied to a homeowner's policy. Both options provide enhanced protection beyond standard coverage, but they differ in how they are integrated into insurance plans. Question 72. Scenario. Mr. Thompson, who lives in Louisiana, has a E2 dwelling policy and discovers that his rental property suffered damage due to a hailstorm. After assessing the damage, he finds that the policy covers hail damage but does not fully cover the cost of repairs. What factors should Mr. Thompson consider regarding his policy limits and coverage options, and what steps should he take to address the shortfall? Mr. Thompson should review his policy limits and coverage options to determine if additional endorsements or higher limits are necessary to cover the full cost of repairs. He should also discuss with his insurer whether the shortfall can be addressed through supplementary coverage or if he needs to cover the excess out of pocket. B. He should assume that the policy will automatically cover any repair costs above the initial limit with no need for further action. C. Mr. Thompson should request a policy cancellation and seek a new policy with higher limits without considering adjustments to his current coverage. D. The shortfall is likely due to an error in the assessment, so Mr. Thompson should not take any action until he receives a corrected repair estimate from the insurer. Correct answer A. Mr. Thompson should review his policy limits and coverage options to determine if additional endorsements or higher limits are necessary to cover the full cost of repairs. He should also discuss with his insurer whether the shortfall can be addressed through supplementary coverage or if he needs to cover the excess out-of-pocket. Explanation. If Mr. Thompson's D2 dwelling policy does not fully cover the cost of repairs, he should first review his policy limits and coverage options to understand what is covered and what is not. The D2 policy offers named peril coverage, and additional endorsements might be needed to cover specific types of damage or higher limits. He should discuss the shortfall with his insurer to explore whether supplementary coverage or increased limits could address the gap. If additional coverage cannot be provided, Mr. Thompson may need to cover the excess repair costs out of pocket. Question 73. In Louisiana, what is the significance of the duty to cooperate clause in a personal auto policy (PAP), and what can be the consequences for the insured if they fail to meet this duty following an accident? A. The duty to cooperate clause requires the insured to assist the insurer in the investigation, settlement, or defense of a claim. Failure to comply can result in denial of coverage for that claim or future claims related to the incident. B. The clause mandates that the insured must only notify the insurer of the accident with no requirement for further cooperation. Non-compliance with this clause does not affect coverage. C. This clause allows the insured to independently handle any claims or legal proceedings without notifying the insurer, with no impact on the policy's coverage. D. The duty to cooperate clause is relevant only in cases where the insured is found to be at fault, or otherwise it has no bearing on the policy. Correct answer A. The duty to cooperate clause requires the insured to assist the insurer in the investigation, settlement, or defense of a claim. Failure to comply can result in denial of coverage for that claim or future claims related to the incident. Explanation. The duty to cooperate clause in a personal auto policy (PAP) obligates the insured to assist the insurer in the investigation, settlement, or defense of a claim. This includes providing necessary information, attending depositions, and cooperating with the insurer's legal representatives. If the insured fails to fulfill this duty, the insurer may deny coverage for the claim in question or for any subsequent claims arising from the same incident. The insurer needs this cooperation to properly assess and handle the claim, and non-compliance can significantly impact the insured's coverage and legal standing. Question 74. How does the personal liability coverage in a homeowner's insurance policy differ from the liability coverage provided by a personal umbrella policy in Louisiana? A. Personal liability coverage in a homeowner's insurance policy provides protection for specific risks related to the insured's home and personal activities, while a personal umbrella policy extends liability coverage beyond these limits, offering additional protection for a broader range of risks and higher limits. B. Personal liability coverage in a homeowner's insurance policy covers only property damage, whereas a personal umbrella policy exclusively covers bodily injury claims. C. A homeowner's insurance policy's personal liability coverage is less comprehensive and only applies to incidents occurring on the insured's property, while the personal umbrella policy covers all incidents regardless of location. D. Personal liability coverage under a homeowner's insurance policy includes coverage for both property and bodily injury, with no need for additional umbrella coverage. Correct answer: A. Personal liability coverage in a homeowner's insurance policy provides protection for specific risks related to the insured's home and personal activities, while a personal umbrella policy extends liability coverage beyond these limits, offering additional protection for a broader range of risks and higher limits. Explanation: Personal liability coverage under a homeowner's insurance policy typically provides protection for risks associated with the insured's home and personal activities, such as slip and fall accidents or damage caused by the insured. However, a personal umbrella policy offers extended coverage beyond the limits of homeowners and auto insurance policies, providing higher liability limits and covering a broader range of risks, including those not covered by standard policies. The umbrella policy acts as additional protection, covering incidents that may exceed the limits of the primary policies and providing enhanced coverage for various liability exposures. Question 75. Scenario: Ms. Garcia, a Louisiana resident, has a EON basic form dwelling policy. After a recent incident, she discovers that the damage to her property was caused by a risk not covered under the D-POM policy. What are the key limitations of the D-POM policy in terms of perils covered, and what options does Ms. Garcia have to address the coverage gap? A. The D-POM policy covers only a limited set of named perils, such as fire, lightning, and internal explosions, and excludes many other risks. Ms. Garcia should consider upgrading to EIP or DIPA 3 policy to obtain broader coverage that includes additional perils. B. The D-POM policy provides open peril coverage, so Ms. Garcia should expect all types of damage to be covered regardless of the risk involved. C. The D-POM policy is designed to cover only the dwelling and does not address any damage to personal property, making it more comprehensive than other forms. D. The D-POM policy includes broad coverage for all risks and should cover the incident. Ms. Garcia should check if there was a misunderstanding about the coverage specifics. Correct answer: A. The D-POM policy covers only a limited set of named perils, such as fire, lightning, and internal explosions, and excludes many other risks. Ms. Garcia should consider upgrading to EITA or DIPA 3 policy to obtain broader coverage that includes additional perils. Explanation: The D-POM basic form dwelling policy provides coverage for a limited set of named perils, such as fire, lightning, and internal explosions. This policy does not cover all types of risks, meaning that many potential causes of damage are excluded. If Ms. Garcia's damage was caused by a peril not covered under the D-POM policy, she would need to consider upgrading to D2 a broad form or DIPA 3 special form policy to obtain broader coverage. These policies include additional perils and, in the case of the DIPA 3, open peril coverage for more comprehensive protection. Question 76. What are the key differences between replacement cost and an actual cash value coverage in a homeowner's insurance policy in Louisiana, and how do these differences impact the payout following a claim? A replacement cost coverage reimburses the cost to replace damaged or destroyed property with new items of similar kind and quality without deducting for depreciation, whereas actual cash value coverage provides reimbursement based on the replacement cost minus depreciation, resulting in a potentially low payout. B. Actual cash value coverage reimburses for the full cost of repairs or replacement with no depreciation deducted, while replacement cost coverage only covers the original purchase price of the property. C. Replacement cost coverage is available only for personal property, whereas actual cash value applies exclusively to the dwelling structure. D. Both replacement cost and actual cash value provide the same payout amount, but replacement cost coverage includes additional benefits such as extended coverage for wear and tear. Correct answer: A replacement cost coverage reimburses the cost to replace damaged or destroyed property with new items of similar kind and quality without deducting for depreciation, whereas actual cash value coverage provides reimbursement based on the replacement cost minus depreciation, resulting in a potentially low payout. Explanation: replacement cost coverage in a homeowner's insurance policy pays for the cost to replace damaged or destroyed property with new items of similar kind and quality without accounting for depreciation. This means that policyholders receive the full amount needed to replace the property. In contrast, actual cash value coverage reimburses the policyholder based on the replacement cost of the property minus depreciation, which accounts for the age and condition of the property at the time of loss. As a result, the payout under actual cash value coverage is generally lower than that under replacement cost coverage. Question 77. How does the deductible ECA flood insurance policy under the National Flood Insurance Program (NFIP) affect the claim payout in Louisiana, and what should policyholders be aware of regarding the application of this deductible? A. The deductible in a flood insurance policy under NFIP is subtracted from the total amount of the covered loss, reducing the payout amount to the policyholder. It applies to both building and personal property claims separately, and policyholders should be aware that this deductible must be met before any payment is issued. B. The deductible is applied only once per policy period, regardless of the number of claims made, and it covers all types of losses, including flood damage to both the building and personal property. C. Deductibles in NFIP policies are applied on a per-incident basis for each type of coverage, but they do not impact the total claim payout, which is paid in full regardless of the deductible amount. D. NFIP deductibles are waived for claims related to severe weather events, so policyholders do not need to account for deductibles when making a claim for flood damage. Correct answer: A. The deductible in a flood insurance policy under NFIP is subtracted from the total amount of the covered loss, reducing the payout amount to the policyholder. It applies to both building and personal property claims separately, and policyholders should be aware that this deductible must be met before any payment is issued. Explanation: in a flood insurance policy under the National Flood Insurance Program (NFIP), the deductible is subtracted from the total amount of the covered loss, reducing the final payout to the policyholder. The deductible applies separately to building and personal property claims, meaning that separate deductibles may need to be met for each type of claim. Policyholders should be aware that the deductible must be satisfied before the insurer issues any payment for the claim. This means that for both building and personal property losses, the deductible amount reduces the total claim payout. Question 78. Scenario: Mr. Jones, a Louisiana resident, has a personal umbrella policy that includes a self-insured retention amount. After a car accident where he was found liable, he is informed that the SIR applies to his claim. How does the self-insured retention impact his claim, and what steps should Mr. Jones take to manage this situation? A. The self-insured retention amount represents the portion of the claim Mr. Jones must pay out of pocket before the personal umbrella policy starts covering the remaining costs. Mr. Jones should review his policy to understand the SIR amount and prepare to cover this portion of the claim himself. B. The SIR amount is only applicable to claims related to property damage, so Mr. Jones does not need to pay anything out of pocket for liability claims. C. The SIR is covered entirely by the insurer, meaning Mr. Jones does not need to pay anything before the umbrella policy kicks in. D. The SIR only applies if the claim exceeds the primary insurance limits, so Mr. Jones should not expect to pay anything unless the claim amount is above the primary policy limits. Correct answer: A. The self-insured retention amount represents the portion of the claim Mr. Jones must pay out of pocket before the personal umbrella policy starts covering the remaining costs. Mr. Jones should review his policy to understand the SIR amount and prepare to cover this portion of the claim himself. Explanation. In a personal umbrella policy, the self-insured retention is the amount that the insured must pay out of pocket before the umbrella policy begins to cover additional costs. This amount applies to the claim directly, and Mr. Jones will need to pay this portion himself before the umbrella policy covers the remaining expenses. It is essential for Mr. Jones to review his policy to understand the specific SIR amount and ensure he is financially prepared to cover this cost. The SIR does not affect coverage for the primary insurance limits, but is a condition of the umbrella policy's coverage. Question 79. What is the primary difference between a HO3 and a HO5 homeowners insurance policy in Louisiana, and how does this difference affect the coverage provided for personal property? A. The HO3 policy provides coverage for the dwelling on an open peril basis and personal property on a named peril basis, whereas the HO5 policy offers open peril coverage for both the dwelling and personal property, resulting in broader protection for personal belongings. B. The HO3 policy covers both the dwelling and personal property on a named peril basis, while the HO5 policy covers only the dwelling on an open peril basis with no coverage for personal property. C. The HO3 policy includes higher limits for personal property than the HO5 policy, but the HO5 policy provides better coverage for the dwelling structure. D. The HO5 policy provides limited coverage for personal property, while the HO3 policy includes broad coverage for both the dwelling and personal property. Correct answer. A. The HO3 policy provides coverage for the dwelling on an open peril basis and personal property on a named peril basis, whereas the HO5 policy offers open peril coverage for both the dwelling and personal property, resulting in broader protection for personal belongings. Explanation. The HO3 policy is known as the special form and offers open peril coverage for the dwelling, meaning it covers all risks except those specifically excluded, and named peril coverage for personal property, covering only risks specifically listed in the policy. In contrast, the HO5 policy, also known as the comprehensive form, provides open peril coverage for both the dwelling and personal property. This means that the HO5 policy offers more extensive protection for personal belongings compared to the HO3, as it covers a wider range of risks without having to list them individually. Question 80. In Louisiana, how does the loss of use of coverage in a homeowner's insurance policy assist homeowners, and what are the typical limitations or exclusions associated with this coverage? The loss of use of coverage reimburses homeowners for additional living expenses incurred while their home is uninhabitable due to a covered loss. However, it generally does not cover expenses beyond a certain limit or duration specified in the policy. B. The loss of use of coverage provides reimbursement for the replacement value of the home's contents, but does not cover living expenses during the repair period. C. This coverage only applies to homes damaged by natural disasters, excluding other types of damage such as fire or theft. D. Loss of use of coverage is an optional endorsement that must be purchased separately from the standard homeowner's insurance policy and may not be included in most policies. Correct answer. A. The loss of use of coverage reimburses homeowners for additional living expenses incurred while their home is uninhabitable due to a covered loss. However, it generally does not cover expenses beyond a certain limit or duration specified in the policy. Explanation. The loss of use of coverage in a homeowner's insurance policy, also known as additional living expenses, helps homeowners by covering the cost of temporary living arrangements and additional expenses incurred when their home becomes uninhabitable due to a covered loss, such as fire or vandalism. This coverage typically has limits on the total amount payable and the duration of coverage, which are specified in the policy. It does not cover costs beyond these limits or expenses unrelated to living arrangements, such as the cost of personal property or structural repairs. Question 81. Scenario. Mrs. Reed has a personal auto policy in Louisiana with uninsured motorist coverage. After an accident, she discovers that the at-fault driver has no insurance, and Mrs. Reed has substantial medical expenses. What should Mrs. Reed expect in terms of coverage from her uninsured motorist coverage, and what are the potential limitations or requirements she should be aware of? A. Mrs. Reed's uninsured motorist coverage will cover her medical expenses up to the policy limit, but she should be aware that coverage might be subject to a deductible, and she must meet certain notification and cooperation requirements for the claim. B. The coverage will provide reimbursement only for vehicle repair costs and not for medical expenses incurred due to the accident. C. Uninsured motorist coverage will cover medical expenses without any policy limits or deductibles, providing unlimited coverage for her medical needs. D. Mrs. Reed will need to pursue legal action against the uninsured driver personally, as uninsured motorist coverage does not apply to medical expenses but only to property damage. Correct answer: A. Mrs. Reed's uninsured motorist coverage will cover her medical expenses up to the policy limits, but she should be aware that coverage might be subject to deductible and she must meet certain notification and cooperation requirements for the claim. Explanation: An insured motorist coverage is designed to cover medical expenses as well as other damages if the at-fault driver in an accident does not have insurance. Mrs. Reed can expect her coverage to reimburse her medical expenses up to the limits specified in her policy. However, she should be aware that her policy may include a deductible that applies before the insurance coverage kicks in. Additionally, Mrs. Reed must comply with certain requirements, such as promptly notifying her insurer of the accident and cooperating with their investigation to ensure that her claim is processed smoothly. Question 82. In Louisiana, how does the property damage coverage under personal auto policy PAP address damage to a rented vehicle, and what are the limitations or exclusions related to this coverage? A. The property damage coverage under PAP generally does not extend to rented vehicles, but coverage might be available through a separate endorsement or through the rental company's insurance policy. Policyholders should check for specific exclusions and consider additional insurance options. B. Property damage coverage automatically extends to any rented vehicle, providing the same level of coverage as for owned vehicles without any additional requirements. C. The coverage applies to rented vehicles only if the rental is for a period exceeding 30 days, otherwise it is excluded from coverage. D. Property damage coverage under PAP covers rented vehicles for damage as long as the rental is through an approved rental agency and the vehicle is used for personal purposes only. Correct answer: A. The property damage coverage under PAP generally does not extend to rented vehicles, but coverage might be available through a separate endorsement or through the rental company's insurance policy. Policyholders should check for specific exclusions and consider additional insurance options. Explanation: Typically, property damage coverage under personal auto policy PAP does not extend to rented vehicles, which are often excluded from standard coverage. However, some policies may offer additional coverage through endorsements or provide a rental vehicle provision. Policyholders are encouraged to review their policy for specific exclusions related to rented vehicles and to consider purchasing additional insurance from the rental company or an endorsement on their own policy to ensure adequate protection. Question 83. What impact does the perils insured against cause have on the coverage provided by a dwelling policy DEPA 2 in Louisiana, and how does it differ from the coverage provided by a EM policy? A. The DEPA 2 policy provides broader coverage than the D1 policy by including more named perils and additional protection for the dwelling and personal property, whereas the DEPA 1 policy covers a more limited set of named perils. B. The DEPA 2 policy offers open peril coverage for both the dwelling and personal property, while the DEPA 1 policy provides named peril coverage only for personal property, with no coverage for the dwelling. C. The DEPA 2 policy and the DEPA 1 policy offer the same perils insured against, but differ only in the limits of coverage provided. D. The DEPA 2 policy provides coverage exclusively for property damage caused by natural disasters, while the DEPA 1 policy covers all types of property damage, including those from accidents and theft. Correct answer: A. The DEPA 2 policy provides broader coverage than the D1 policy by including more named perils and additional protection for the dwelling and personal property, whereas the DEPA 1 policy covers a more limited set of named perils. Explanation: The DEPA 2 broad form dwelling policy provides coverage for a wider range of named perils compared to the D1 basic form dwelling policy, while the D1 policy covers a basic set of perils such as fire, lightning, and internal explosion. The DEPA 2 policy includes additional perils such as falling objects, weight of ice, and accidental discharge of water. This broader range of coverage under the DEPA 2 policy means that it offers more comprehensive protection for both the dwelling and personal property compared to the DEPA 1 policy. Question 84. Scenario: Mr. and Mrs. Thompson have a homeowner's insurance policy in Louisiana that includes a scheduled personal property of endorsement. After discovering that a valuable collection of antique jewelry was stolen, they are unsure about the extent of their coverage. How does a scheduled personal property endorsement typically enhance coverage for valuable items, and what limitations might apply? A scheduled personal property endorsement provides enhanced coverage for specific valuable items listed in the policy, covering them for risks that may not be included in the standard homeowner's policy. However, it may have limitations such as a requirement to provide detailed descriptions and appraisals of the items. B. This endorsement covers valuable items without any additional requirements or limitations, offering full replacement cost coverage regardless of the type of loss. C. The endorsement limits coverage to only accidental damage and excludes theft or loss due to natural disasters. D. Scheduled personal property coverage includes only items that are physically stored in the home, excluding items that are lost or stolen while away from the residence. Correct answer A. A scheduled personal property endorsement provides enhanced coverage for specific valuable items listed in the policy, covering them for risks that may not be included in the standard homeowner's policy. However, it may have limitations such as a requirement to provide detailed descriptions and appraisals of the items. Explanation: a scheduled personal property endorsement allows policyholders to list specific valuable items such as jewelry, art, or collectibles on their homeowner's insurance policy. This endorsement enhances coverage for these items by offering protection against risks that might not be covered by the standard policy, such as accidental loss or mysterious disappearance. To benefit from this enhanced coverage, policyholders typically need to provide detailed descriptions and appraisals of the scheduled items. Limitations might include requirements for documentation and potential sublimits on coverage for certain types of loss. Question 85. In Louisiana, how does a personal umbrella policy address coverage for claims related to bodily injury or property damage that exceeds the limits of underlying policies, and what are some common exclusions to be aware of? A personal umbrella policy provides additional coverage for bodily injury and property damage claims that exceed the limits of underlying policies such as auto or homeowners insurance. However, it typically excludes coverage for intentional acts, business-related liabilities, and certain types of damages such as those related to business activities or aircraft. B. The personal umbrella policy covers all types of claims regardless of the underlying policy limits and has no exclusions or limitations. C. It provides coverage only for property damage claims and not for bodily injury claims, with no additional limits beyond those of the underlying policies. D. The policy covers only claims arising from automobile accidents and excludes all other types of bodily injury or property damage. Correct answer A. A personal umbrella policy provides additional coverage for bodily injury and property damage claims that exceed the limits of underlying policies such as auto or homeowners insurance. However, it typically excludes coverage for intentional acts, business-related liabilities, and certain types of damages such as those related to business activities or aircraft. Explanation: a personal umbrella policy is designed to provide extra liability coverage over and above the limits of underlying policies like auto and homeowners insurance. This policy helps protect against large claims that exceed the primary policy limits. Common exclusions include coverage for intentional acts, business-related activities, and claims involving aircraft or watercraft. It is important for policyholders to understand these exclusions and ensure they have appropriate coverage for any potential gaps. Question 86. What is the role of the increased cost of compliance coverage in a flood insurance policy under the National Flood Insurance Program (NFIP) in Louisiana, and what types of costs are typically covered? A. The increased cost of compliance coverage helps pay for the costs required to bring a building up to current floodplain management standards after a flood loss, including costs for elevating, demolishing, or relocating the structure. It covers these costs up to a specified limit. B. This coverage provides additional reimbursement for property repair costs not covered by the standard flood insurance policy, but it does not include expenses related to compliance with local building codes. C. The increased cost of compliance coverage applies only to damages to personal property and does not extend to structural changes or compliance costs. D. It covers only the cost of repairing or replacing the flood-damaged property but excludes any costs related to making the building compliant with current codes. Correct answer A. The increased cost of compliance coverage helps pay for the costs required to bring a building up to current floodplain management standards after flood loss, including costs for elevating, demolishing, or relocating the structure. It covers these costs up to a specified limit. Explanation: increased cost of compliance coverage under the NFIP is designed to help property owners cover the costs associated with complying with local floodplain management regulations after a flood. This includes costs for elevating, demolishing, or relocating a flood-damaged building to meet current standards. The coverage has a specified limit and is intended to help policyholders manage the financial burden of making their property compliant with updated floodplain management requirements. Question 87, Scenario MS. Garcia has a dwelling policy DP3 in Louisiana for a rental property. A fire severely damages the property and she files a claim for the loss. What coverage options are available under the DP3 policy for the damaged property, and what should MS Garcia expect regarding the reimbursement for lost rental income? A. The DP3 policy, which is an open peril policy, provides coverage for the dwelling against all perils except those specifically excluded. It also includes coverage for loss of rental income under the fair rental value provision, reimbursing MS Garcia for lost income while the property is uninhabitable due to a covered loss. B. The DP3 policy only covers the cost of repairs to the dwelling and does not provide any reimbursement for lost rental income or additional expenses related to the loss. C. Coverage for the dwelling under the DP3 policy is limited to named perils and excludes any form of rental income reimbursement, requiring MS Garcia to seek additional insurance for lost income. D. The DP3 policy covers the dwelling for open perils but provides a minimal amount for lost rental income which may not fully compensate MS Garcia for the total loss of income during the repair period. Correct answer A. The DP3 policy, which is an open peril policy, provides coverage for the dwelling against all perils except those specifically excluded. It also includes coverage for loss of rental income under the fair rental value provision, reimbursing MS Garcia for lost income while the property is uninhabitable due to a covered loss. Explanation: the DP3 special form dwelling policy provides broad coverage for the dwelling on an open peril basis, meaning it covers all risks of direct physical loss except those specifically excluded by the policy. It also includes the fair rental value provision, which reimburses the policyholder for lost rental income while the rental property is uninhabitable due to a covered loss. This provision helps offset the financial impact of lost rental income during the repair or rebuilding process. Question 88. In Louisiana, how does the personal auto policy PAP handle coverage for damages to a rental car, and what steps should a policyholder take to ensure they are properly covered? A. The personal auto policy PAP typically does not extend coverage to rental cars. Policyholders should purchase additional coverage from the rental car company or add a specific endorsement to their PAP to cover rental vehicles. It is important for policyholders to check their policy details and rental agreements for coverage specifics. B. The PAP provides automatic coverage for rental cars, applying the same coverage limits and conditions as for the policyholder's own vehicle with no need for additional insurance or endorsements. C. Coverage for rental cars under the PAP is limited to liability only, and the policyholder must seek separate comprehensive and collision coverage from the rental agency. D. The PAP offers rental car coverage only if the rental is for personal use and not for business purposes, but only if the rental is for a duration exceeding 30 days. Correct answer A. The personal auto policy PAP typically does not extend coverage to rental cars. Policyholders should purchase additional coverage from the rental car company or add a specific endorsement to their PAP to cover rental vehicles. It is important for policyholders to check their policy details and rental agreements for coverage specifics. Explanation: standard personal auto policies PAP generally do not extend coverage to rental cars unless specifically stated. To ensure coverage for rental vehicles, policyholders should either purchase additional coverage from the rental car company or add an endorsement to their PAP. This endorsement can provide the same coverage for rental cars as it does for the policyholder's own vehicle. It is crucial for policyholders to review their policy and rental agreements to understand the extent of their coverage and any additional requirements. Question 89. In Louisiana, what distinguishes a E-dwelling policy from a E2-dwelling policy in terms of coverage for personal property and perils insured against? A. The D1 dwelling policy provides named peril coverage for both the dwelling and personal property, whereas the D2 dwelling policy offers broader named peril coverage for personal property and additional protections not included in the D1 policy. B. The D1 dwelling policy covers the dwelling on an open peril basis and personal property on a named peril basis, while the D2 policy covers both the dwelling and personal property on an open peril basis. C. The D2 dwelling policy covers the dwelling for a broader range of perils compared to the D1 policy, and it provides additional coverage for personal property, including replacement cost options, which are not available under the D1 policy. D. The D-Pawn dwelling policy covers the dwelling on an open peril basis and personal property on a named peril basis, while the D-2 policy provides comprehensive coverage for the dwelling only and does not include personal property. Correct answer. C. The D-2 dwelling policy covers the dwelling for a broader range of perils compared to the D1 policy, and it provides additional coverage for personal property, including replacement cost options, which are not available under the D1 policy. Explanation. The D-Pawn dwelling policy provides coverage for the dwelling and personal property on a named peril basis, which means it only covers risks specifically listed in the policy. In contrast, the D-2 dwelling policy, also known as the broad form, covers the dwelling and personal property against a more extensive range of named perils and often includes replacement cost coverage for personal property. This makes the D-2 policy more comprehensive than the D-1, offering broader protection and additional benefits. Question 90. Scenario. Mr. Johnson owns a homeowner's insurance policy in Louisiana with a standard endorsement for personal property replacement cost. After a burglary, he needs to replace stolen electronics and furniture. What should Mr. Johnson expect regarding the reimbursement process under this endorsement, and what limitations might affect his claim? A. Under the personal property replacement cost endorsement, Mr. Johnson should expect reimbursement for the cost of replacing stolen items with new items of similar quality minus any deductible. However, he may need to provide proof of replacement costs and adhere to any policy limits or exclusions related to specific types of property. B. The endorsement will only cover the actual cash value of the items stolen, deducting depreciation, and does not provide full replacement cost reimbursement. C. The coverage will reimburse Mr. Johnson for the replacement cost of the stolen items without any need for documentation or adherence to policy limits, providing unlimited coverage. D. Mr. Johnson will receive reimbursement based solely on the depreciated value of the items, with no additional provisions for replacement cost or policy limits. Correct answer. A. Under the personal property replacement cost endorsement, Mr. Johnson should expect reimbursement for the cost of replacing stolen items with new items of similar quality minus any deductible. However, he may need to provide proof of replacement costs and adhere to any policy limits or exclusions related to specific types of property. Explanation. The personal property replacement cost endorsement allows policyholders to receive reimbursement for the cost of replacing stolen or damaged items with new items of similar quality rather than their depreciated value. This endorsement typically requires the policyholder to provide proof of the replacement cost and may be subject to policy limits, deductibles, and exclusions for certain types of property. Proper documentation and adherence to policy terms are essential for a smooth reimbursement process.